Later today, I'm going to be microneedling my face.
Now, Kira, I'm a stinky, smelly boy. I don't know stuff
I didn't want to
about
say
any.
anything.
I don't know anything about that. What is that? Explain.
Yeah, so microneedling is it's poking holes in your skin, like a lot of them, to create controlled injuries in your skin to convince your skin for the need to do cell turnover and to create collagen. But the holes that you create in your skin are so small that they don't actually cause any like long-term scarring. So it's like you're you're kind of like hacking your skin's, defense mechanisms, so you can have a youthful appearance
So you're biohacking, basically.
and say 21 forever. Yeah, I'm biohacking.
It's 21 forever. You're biohacking. That's really based. Wow.
Yeah, you could say I'm a biohacker. It's true. And because I'm such a biohacker, I'm not going to a professional to do this like they say that you should. I'm going to do it myself. And I've done it myself a number of times. So I have like the whole kit and I get like gloved up and I sanitize everything and like, you know, you get these like needle heads with like a bunch of needles and like they come in these sterile kits and once you're done you throw them away. So everything's like very sterile. Um, and so yeah, this will be like the fourth time or something that I'm doing this to my own face. And then the recovery is going to take like a few days because then your skin immediately looks red, like you got sunburn. Sometimes a little bleedy, but and then so it looks like you got sunburn and then your skin starts to peel like you're peeling from a sunburn. It's really cool. Like you just create this whole like you hack your skin
It's
using these little
biohacking.
needles. And it's like a little like pen. So go through it almost looks like it's like a tattoo gun, but doesn't go quite as deep and it's not as intense. But it just like punches a bunch of holes in your skin and you run it over your face. And then you have a perforated face. And then you look like you're 21 for
Oh,
eternity.
oh, I see. Right. Okay. I didn't understand quite what the point of it was, but you explained it now, and I get it now.
Yeah. Did I finally get there?
You got there. You got through this idiot boy skull that I have.
Don't say that. If someone said that to me, would you accept that commentary? You say, no, that's not true. So I'm
If
not
you
going
said
to
it about
accept.
yourself, then it's different. No,
Yeah,
you're
but
right. I wouldn't accept it. No, you're right. You're right.
but because it's a Mule and Kira day, we're doing positive vibes only.
Positive vibes only. Don't anyone talk about anything.
Don't talk about anything horrible like we were totally going to talk about in a little bit in the news.
There's no Red Planet normal news today. It's a cozy stream, a cozy podcast. Yeah. Welcome to Red Planet. It's me, it's Kira, it's Mule and Kira Day. Kira, I know you did something based this week. Or do I? Did you? What did you do? What is it?
Well, what did I do? I've been trying to like have a social life and I don't normally have a social life. But I'm trying to. So I'm trying to like meet up with a myriad of people. I'm trying to spend more time with my family too. But I've been interacting with a lot of people with that are like-minded to me in terms of politics. Some of them aren't organizing, and so I'm talking to them about organizing and like we're getting psyched that we might actually like get out there and do more stuff together. Because it's how it is when like you have your worldview, you have your values, but you feel really alone. You don't know what to do with it. You feel kind of like impotent about it. It's nice to connect with other people and then you kind of get like pumped. You're like, yeah, we could do something about this actually. So that's been kind of the things I've been experiencing, but I've also been interacting with some normies just to kind of like, just to mix it up a bit. Just trying to see what that's about. See how horrible could it possibly be? And sometimes it's not great, but sometimes, you kind of just see people that are really truly oblivious to the realities of things. They truly are. And I don't mean that in like a hurtful, disparaging way, although it inherently is. But it's more of like it's more of like a not a malicious way. They truly are a cog in the system and they really just need the information. So I've been like just talking to lots of normies about what communism is and what dual power is, and the need for revolutionaries to intervene in the system, and take positions of power in order to abolish that system, and like what that looks like, why capitalism is bad, so on and so forth. And so it's been really interesting and kind of inspiring to see how lots of people that normally would shy away from these concepts have kind of come to embrace them, at least in the course of the conversation with me. Who knows? But that's been very interesting.
Yeah, it's always super weird. You feel kind of isolated when you're talking about the stuff that we talk about. And you're saying these things like dual power, you're saying these things. It's only ever happened once where I've been at it was actually the first eviction resistance I ever went on. And I was saying like, oh yeah, I kind of joined the tenants union because it's all about building dual power. And it was this old crusty commie guy. And he literally went, well, that's the dream. And I was like, yes, it is great. But when I've spoken to like other people about it, they're like, what's that? And I guess that's just like the sort of difference in, the knowing the theory and applying it, because you might be applying the theory, but not necessarily understand what it is that you're doing or what to call it, right?
Well, I was talking to this person wasn't a normie. I think they're pretty much a communist, but I was talking to them the other day, and we were talking about the way to make the world a better place. And they started describing dual power. They're like, okay, so what we need to do, I think, is to start creating our own system in which like people don't need to go out to that system to, the capitalist system to get stuff. They can look within our system. And I'm like, you're talking about dual power right now. And so it's cool to see people also like kind of organically get there, maybe not through like being super theory brained, but still, have the foundational pieces and just kind of come up with it. It's like, yes, we should do that. Actually, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, that's revolutionary optimism, right? It's the knowledge that actually people will just do the revolution eventually. It's not eventually, it's more like the more that capitalism oppresses the working class, it just will be inevitable, Mr. Anderson.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah, I've been
yeah,
thinking
yeah.
about the Matrix a lot whenever that one scene with the woman with the red dress. They're like, these people need to be saved, but until they wake up, they are plugged into the system, and that means they are our enemy. And so it's it's a great analogy for at least the way that I've felt. It's a great analogy for interacting with a lot of people that are not like-minded with me, but are unfortunately still the quote unquote enemy because they are operating within the system, perpetuating that system, and have no interest in abolishing that system, right? And even worse, sometimes actively work against people that are trying to abolish that system. So I don't know. I've been just trying to mix it up a bit, throw a wrench in things, and have these conversations with those plugged in people, and just see how it goes. I don't know. It's been interesting. But Mule, I need to know. Have you done anything base this week?
Do you know what? Actually, no,
Really? No, you haven't? Yes.
no, I've not done anything. I've not done anything at all this
Finally,
week.
we have a
Yeah,
week. Yes.
yeah, yeah, literally.
I think you're lying though.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. It's not that I've done nothing. It's just that I've not done anything like, I guess like activism wise.
But neither have I, and I still had a thing to say.
No, no, no. I have a thing to say. I have a thing to say. I mean, you could argue that what you're doing is like propaganda. Like you're sowing the seeds. Like, here's the thing. You know what? You know what I love about like. Okay, let's talk about this real quick because I think this is super important. I think people need to hear this, right? Because everybody is terrified of like a made up hypothetical scenario where they go back in time and they're terrified about like standing on like a branch because it might change the future. Like this
It might
like
be a you thing.
no, it's not. This is very normal. Everyone will confirm this, right? This isn't just like a me. There's like Star Trek episodes about this. So you should know this. I'm embarrassed actually for you that you don't know this. But everybody's like
I'm embarrassed by you.
That's fine. That's normal, actually.
I tell people I don't know you.
That's
Okay. Who are
that's
you?
that's normal, actually, when people are discussing me, especially at the time that I had that weird pedo mustache.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Who could forget?
Yeah, no, that was the bad time for me. Yeah, no.
The origin story of why everyone hates mules, that one pedo mustache he had one time.
I no, people are terrified of this, like,
People are
hypothetical
terrified
made
of
up.
going back in time and sitting on a branch that's very weak and then it breaks.
What, and then the future is changed irrevocably. Like, it's just completely. It's the butterfly effect. It's the butterfly effect. And in terms of like what you are doing, you're doing the butterfly effect by talking to normies about dual power. But you just don't realize it yet. You don't know what effect that's going to have. It might not even have an effect on them. It might have an effect on like their kids. And then 20 years into the super cyber future where it's not that cyber.
I mean, if it has an effect on their kids, talk about biohacking.
Right, exactly.
We're getting right in there.
If I had my soundboard on, I would be playing air horns right now. Because that you're correct.
Wow, what a shame that you don't have your soundboard then.
It's a real shame. It's a crying shame.
You're really missing that extra element on the show. It's just like
it would improve the show tenfold, I believe. But
become like a shock jock emporium, but just for communism. That makes a lot of sense.
That's what my entire stream is at the minute because of that. But anyway, moving on. The most basic thing I did this week actually was because I don't know if I spoke about this last week on the show. I'm not sure I did, but I had like a piercing problem. I've had like fatigue for like the last 9 months, like an overbearing amount of horrible sort of post-viral scuzzy fatigue. I
think it's like a long COVID type thing.
Yes, I got like a variant of COVID. Yeah, I got like a variant of COVID back in May last year, and I was struggling to get it all out of my system. And I was Googling, and I had like these consistent pains in like the side of my face that was the same side as I had this ear piercing on, right? And I thought, no, it can't be that. So I didn't do anything about it, but it did. Like, a lot of the symptoms coincided with my ear piercing feeling very swollen and bad, and I thought, it's probably connected, I don't know. But last week I kind of just thought, fuck it, I'm gonna just take it out, because if I have to pay for another helix piercing — it was a helix piercing, by the way, the one that's in the cartilage of your ear — if I just take it out, I'll have to pay another 50 quid to get it re-pierced or whatever. I still got the jewelry, so I can put that back in and maybe it'll work. And lo and behold, I am better now. I know that sounds bizarre, but I am literally better now. And I spoke to the doctor on Thursday about it, and she said, I know.
Sorry for interrupting, but I need to know. I need to know the explanation. That's why I'm interrupting you during your explanation. Tell me right now what is going on with your ear.
I'll tell you right now. So the thing is, my doctor was saying, and I said, look, I don't know if this is true. I've just been looking at stuff online, and I know that a lot of the times that's wrong, but you could tell me. You're a doctor, you've been to school, whatever. What do you think? What do you think about this? I thought it's because it's my immune system, because your immune system, when you have COVID, it goes into overdrive. That's actually what kills a lot of people, is your immune system going too hard, and it ends up destroying cells that are healthy in your lungs. And that was what was killing people at like the very start of lockdown, when people didn't know too much about it. And perhaps what's happened is because it was, even though it was a variant of COVID, my immune system has gone into overdrive still, and it thought that, well, your brain does think that a piercing is a foreign object, because it's a foreign object. Yeah. And so it's like,
also depends on the metal that's used, you know.
Well, it's titanium, so it's extremely rare to have an allergy to titanium. It could be, it easily could be, but it's like questionable as to whether actually like that would give me the kind of fatigue. The fatigue is like the big one. It was like I couldn't work out. Like if I went to work out, I would be done for like a week, like a normal workout, like nothing strenuous, just like on the treadmill or whatever. So yeah, no, and so we seemed like, my doctor seemed to agree, like, yeah, it's probably going to be your brain was trying to recover from the illness, but actually it thought that the ear was part of the illness, so you weren't allowed to recover, because the headaches that I used to get, gone. I used to get like a weird dry eye, gone. Like actual fatigue and everything in every single aspect of my life, I'm actually feeling better. Like I went on a date today. It's like the first date I've been on since I was feeling better. And I felt like amazing, even in like social interactions. Bizarre. So actually the most base thing that I've done this week is take like a bit of a week to sort of, you know, not I guess like not try and do too much because I'm better, if that makes sense. Like I thought, okay, well, if my brain or whatever has been trying to recover for like the last 9 months, and all of a sudden I've taken this piercing out and lots of things are better, I can't just like go back to the gym straight away. I really wanted to, by the way. That was like the first thing that I thought. I was like, I'm going to go to the gym on Monday. And then I sat down and thought about it, and I was like, that's a silly Billy idea. Don't do that. And I think it was for the best, because I'm feeling incredible and I'm very happy. And yeah, touch wood, nothing that I've done that would normally like make me tired or whatever. Like I went to the pet shop on my bike the other day, and it was completely fine. So fingers crossed that this is what it is. So in a couple of weeks, I'm going to go back to the gym, and yeah, but I think there's a lot to be said about taking things slow. Not trying to rush back into stuff when you've been ill. That's the biggest lesson that I've learned here, really. And that sometimes, you have to take into consideration everything that's going on in your body in order to understand how it works. So I've been very, very blessed. Yeah, I guess just like the most base thing that I did this week is actually stopping to like let my body catch up. And I've been sleeping really well. Like really well.
Good.
So yeah,
happy.
I am unbelievably happy.
It's kind of like you biohacked your way out of that, if you think about it.
I am literally a biohacker, actually. I'm the same as you. We're biohackers.
Both biohackers.
This is the Biohack Show. It's not.
If you have any questions, we can give you absolute professional advice.
Not a guarantee.
Don't actually do that.
Don't do that. Don't ask us anything.
No, nothing, literally. We have no answers for you.
But what you should tell us is if you've been doing based things. You can message us on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, or send an email to based@redplanetshow.com. Include your name and pronouns if you're cool with that, and we may shout it out in a later episode. So that's very cool, isn't it? And now I'm struggling to get into the news segment, because really I should have let you read that bit, and you could have said, Mule, what's going on in France? Because this is my first story. But that was awkward.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you're a man, so clearly you're like, well, I need to dominate the conversation and not let her get a word in, is what you were probably thinking.
That is what I'm always thinking, actually.
Which I personally take offense to, but we can have a conversation after the show.
Yeah, you know what?
About how patriarchy is still absolutely governing your actions here.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And I should be chastised. I think everybody listening to the show should send me a horrible, violent email. Maybe not.
I feel really bad for our autistic viewers and listeners right now, because we're both being so sarcastic the whole time, and like we're not. And I know a lot of you will understand that, but I always over assume how much people get my humor and like my dry whatever. I apologize.
I'm terrible, actually. My community on Twitch has let me know like a few times, actually, you're terrible at sarcasm, and you should tell people when you're being sarcastic, because it's very difficult to tell. For the
record, I don't think that Mule is a domineering patriarch.
Well, you're wrong. But anyway, France...
No. We're trying to get out of the jokes. We're trying to...
France...
Mule, what about France? Mule?
What about...
I would demand you tell me about France.
I will, because I'm a good feminist. I will concede.
Love women, all women.
Every single woman. Okay. France's crackdown on Shine and Temu is doing. So France is trying to crack down on fast fashion. So, fast fashion, what do you know about fast fashion? It's things like Shine. It's things like Temu. I don't even know if I'm saying Shine right. It's like Shein. Shein. I don't use
these newfangled terms, these Zoomer
French words. I don't know what they're saying. Like le chien, le tenu, like whatever that is. I don't know. I'm British.
You are?
That's not my. Yeah, I am. That's not my language, so I don't know it. Actually, I do parler un petit peu de français. But a bill in France's lower house of parliament aimed at regulating fast fashion as sold by online retailers Shein and Temu or storefronts such as H&M was passed with unanimous support. If made law, certain fast fashion companies would be banned from advertising in the country and face fines of up to 10 euros per article of clothing. So I'm not certain exactly how this will actually affect what's going on, but I imagine it will mean that they'll have to bulk up the price of their clothes, where their consumer base is normally looking to get very, very cheap clothes. Because these are companies that normally get a lot of their profit from exported labor to the imperial periphery. Like there was this famous one influencer who I think is one of the directors of Shein, and she was over in I can't remember which country it was. I think it might have been Thailand, and she was doing this whole thing like this is our flagship factory and look how nice it is and look how wonderful it is, and everyone has these nice it looked a bit like Star Trek, do you know what I mean? It looked like upmarket, quite futuristic kind of workstations for everybody, and it looked really nice, and everyone looks well put together, as it were. No one was looking like they were about to have a mental break at any point due to how bad the work is and how low the pay is and stuff. But it turned out that actually even at that factory, which is the one that she used for this sort of what do they call it? It's just like a media promotion thing. This junket thing, she even at that factory that everybody was getting paid way below the minimum wage, and so there's obviously a load of other factories who do this stuff, and of course I think the thing that we need to remind everybody all the time is that when we're talking about degrowth, we're not necessarily talking about making life shitter in the imperial core. It's about things like, for example, we produce way too many clothes. Companies like Shein, companies like Temu, companies like all these fast fashion companies, they produce way too many. And so if we're thinking about what degrowth would mean, it would mean, well, actually, we don't produce as much stuff. We don't force, countries in the imperial periphery, workers in the imperial periphery, to work themselves to the bone for us, pay them better. There's so many different examples of what we can actually expect if we have degrowth.
I want to just give a quick disclaimer, though, because a lot of the people that are against fast fashion and a lot of the people that are against fast fashion happen to be higher income people that will claim that because they buy more expensive things that they are necessarily being more ethical, and there's no truth to that. So if you buy something that's more expensive than something from Shein or whatever, it's possible that more of that money is going to the laborer. It's possible that the laborer's conditions are better, but it's not a guarantee. And if you go into if you track any of these products, I remember I watched this documentary that was looking into so-called ethical furs that were supposedly derived in kinder, more humane ways and blah, blah, blah. It was all just some mass-produced, horrible conditioned, rabbit farm in China that was absolutely just pennies for a pelt. And then later on down the line, it's so obfuscated from the origin, and then so many certifications that are slapped on. By the way, the certifications coming from like the company themselves or some sort of like very much invested entity that is not independent. Um, not that independent, not that these independent certifiers are necessarily great, but like it says a lot if they're especially not independent. But like all these like certifications, all these little like pledges of this and that, and like then you slap on a several $1,000 price tag, and you're like, I'm sure this is more ethical than something that's from fast fashion. So I just want to let people know that fast fashion, yes, absolutely contributes to our consumerism issue, contributes to microplastics in our ocean and our foods, and you know, contributes just to massive amount of waste, and in my opinion just contributes to a that culture of consumption that I think is ultimately like the biggest issue, because you can cut out this and that, but ultimately I think the real harm here is this culture of identity being only your identity being contingent upon your consumption and your display of that consumption. I think that's problematic. I don't think you can't look nice and have like cute fashion and stuff, but it's the fact that's what fast fashion is about. Fast fashion is about like nonstop, like always consuming, always having the newest trend. And it's known that these are going to be thrown away in a few uses, right? Anyways, I just want to let people know that if you cannot afford something nicer or whatever, just know that the more expensive things aren't necessarily not exploiting people. Like we all understand the nature of what capitalism is. It's not like a higher price tag means workers are treated better. Just remember that. Um, and if you want to combat fast fashion and like and things that are harmful or just unethical practices in general, it's good to look for more resilient products that you can maybe, if you want to spend more money on them because they're better made, sure, but that you won't be disposing of right away, or fashions that are more like classic, that you, it's nice to have trend non-trend thing here or there, but if we're looking to re like to revise our interaction with culture to try to live according to our values more, I would personally recommend looking for more resilient items, both in the materials used and also the fashions, the trends that are being portrayed.
And
All
as
right.
well, I think on top of that, I mean, you know, this obviously isn't a boast, and I would love to be able to like afford more clothes. But some of my wardrobe is over 10 years old. I think a lot of the time people are very willing to just like throw clothes out because we live in a society that is like, oh yeah, disposable stuff. Like you don't like it anymore, chuck it out. You know, you don't even have to give it to a charity shop. Just put it in the bin. It doesn't matter. And again, well, in fact, mentioning charity shops are great. Charity shops are really good to
You mean
find.
that in America we would call them thrift stores, I think, right?
Thrift store, yeah, like a Goodwill or whatever. I don't know. I've heard people buy things at Goodwill. I don't know what Goodwill is. I think it's like a
Goodwill's
chain,
a thrift
right?
store. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's the most ethical of them.
It's a terrible chain, apparently. Goodwill, yeah.
Yeah, but like the idea of buying something that's used and that, especially if the funds can go somewhere good or
Mm.
maybe not somewhere bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely an option. I definitely go thrifting. There's this one thrift store I went to a lot in Seattle, and the funds would go towards like HIV patients, which I felt like a little better about. You know, you're still consuming, but it's a little less just pure line go up. I'm a pure like cog and like subject of the system, and shoving all of the waste into some imperial periphery country in which they have to sift through it and try to sell the waste to someone else. Like the whole thing is so fucking incestuous.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So me and Kira, we're pretty abreast of the fast fashion stuff. So France is trying to ban it, kinda. They're putting a €10 per article of clothing thing, and it was passed unanimously, which is interesting because it's like France is a very interesting country in terms of like laws that are going through at the moment. You know, obviously they got a bunch of Islamophobic laws.
What? France?
Yeah, France,
Oh
France. They're the
no.
big racist country.
What?
But You better believe it. If you say that to a French person, they'll still be like, "Oh, Macron's still better than Le Pen," and they're just doing Trump is better, Biden is better than Trump, but make it a different country, really. So anyway, supporters of this law are hopeful that it will pave the way for EU regulation of the fashion industry. Here's hoping, because that would be a really interesting way for fast fashion to get like a little bit affected by some actual legislation, because it's been a little bit unregulated up until now. So why don't you tell me, Kira, about Senegal?
I would be overjoyed to tell you about Senegal. The presidential election proceeds in Senegal despite the ruling party's attempt to stop it. So the day we record this, the people of Senegal voted in a presidential election that almost didn't happen. Originally scheduled for February 25th, the current French-backed president Macky Sall attempted to cancel the vote and reschedule it for December, giving him an additional 8 months in power in an effort to avoid possible charges of corruption and human rights abuses within his outgoing government. In response, protesters took to the streets and clashed with security forces in deadly riots, demanding that the nation's highest court intervene. Ultimately, the court agreed, overturning 2 separate attempts by the ruling government to push the date, and the election was rescheduled for this weekend. The leading opposition candidate's party, the African Patriots of Senegal for Work, Ethics and Fraternity, have been running on a platform of monetary sovereignty, an end to French intervention, and a renegotiation of extractive industry contracts with foreign entities. Results from the election are expected March 26th, with a runoff to follow if no candidate secures more than half the vote. France again.
France, just like messing around in Africa. It's all bullshit. But I think this is like a really important thing to discuss, because not just what's going on in Senegal, but also Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. These are all countries that have been under the foot of French colonialism for decades.
Thoroughly exploited, subjugated.
Thoroughly. And it is very, very interesting to see how much rejection of that is building. And I think right now, especially in Africa in general, just as a continent, there is so much anti-imperialist attitudes. There are so many left-wing progressive attitudes. And Senegal like hasn't gone junta like these other countries have, so it's not like turned into this sort of like militaristic rule where they're like not I guess like it's a bit more authoritarian, so that's like a really interesting way that this is like basically developed, and so it's going to be interesting to see a lot of stuff happening in this regard. Just in general, all over the continent. Like I'm constantly referring to the EFF, the Economic Freedom Foundation, that is like a South African political party. Like if you ever check out some of their speeches from like Julius Malema, really, really, really inspiring. They have like a really interesting amount of support for such a left-wing party. They're standing up and they're saying like, we support LGBTQ people. We support basically dismantling the colonialism of the past and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, holy shit, these guys are based. It's definitely a good idea to like keep an eye on Africa in this host's opinion. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
I just want to say I agree. Since we're all about interjecting, Mule and I are trying to organize a new thing where we have a little more organized, structured, with like coloring within the lines way of
me and you doing structure. What do you mean?
Providing each other feedback in the middle of the show. So I agree with what you just said.
Thank you very much.
No problem. But I am also very wary of the Imperial Corps' intervention I'm wary because the Imperial Corps hates when one of their minions decides to actually like not stand for this bullshit anymore. They hate it. Like, I mean, look at Haiti. They hate it. So solidarity, solidarity, with their comrades in Senegal. I hope you don't see too much resistance, but I mean,
Inshallah, France doesn't invade.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Huh.
So the next story that we got to talk about is the Moscow attack this weekend. So ISIS have claimed responsibility for this. It was a mass shooting and stabbing attack carried out at the Crocus City Hall in Krasnogorsk, Moscow Oblast. Gunmen used incendiary devices to ignite a fire, which caused extensive damage, including the collapse of the concert hall's roof. Of the 4 perpetrators, 2 were killed, while the other 2 were detained. And so the Islamic State has released new videos of the attack outside Moscow that left 137 people dead, corroborating the terror group's claim to have masterminded the slaughter, even as Russia sought to place the blame on Ukraine, which Kiev denies. Kiev has vociferously denied any links to the attack and has indicated it believes Moscow is preparing a pretext to escalate the conflict. According to The Guardian, Russian officials and state media have largely ignored IS's claims to be behind the attacks. Meduza, an independent Russia-language website, has reported that Russian state-funded and pro-government media had been instructed by the Putin administration to emphasize possible traces of Ukrainian involvement in the attack, according to 2 state media employees. And this is just the kind of state actor stuff that we see all over the world. This is very, very like, Israel, something horrific happens, so it gets embellished and then is used as an excuse to, commit some atrocities, essentially. So, we're seeing that from Putin, and we're going to talk a bit more about Israel actually doing that later anyway. Experts have described Friday's attack as a failure of the country's sprawling security services, which have been distracted by the war in Ukraine and a relentless crackdown on political opposition at home. It's one of those. It's like it's very difficult to try and get correct, unbiased news about what's actually going on in Russia, because actual leftist reporting is suppressed so hard in Russia. And everyone outside of Russia who wants to report about Russia is an imperialist scumbag, and they report things from like they report things from such an absolutely bizarre point of view that it's like it just becomes a bit of a farce sometimes. So we have to be mindful of political biases when people say things like this. But this is, of course, according to The Guardian. The Guardian, famous left-wing website, anti-imperialist. They love everything about non-imperialism.
I can't help but notice that you haven't denounced Putin that entire story. Not once have you said that you are anti-Putin.
You know what? It's true. Like we have to make sure every single time when we report on anything, how much we condemn everyone who's involved, condemn Hamas, condemn Putin, condemn Zelensky, condemn Joe Biden, condemn them all. Actually,
the condemner people are always watching. And it's very important that we make sure that they understand how much we condemn everyone and everything that they don't like.
Of course, if I don't say I condemn Putin, it means that actually I love him a lot and I want him to continue, killing LGBTQ people in Russia, isn't it? That's what that means.
Wow.
This is again sarcasm for those who don't know. Yeah.
Sorry.
We got to stop this. It's bad for everybody.
It's a real mess of a show today.
Kira, listen, let's talk about Palestine. Kira, the wonderful Kira, has got our Palestine report ready for the week, and I will be jumping in with a little bit of extra stuff. So go ahead.
Yeah. So, as usual, I'm going to talk about some of the stuff that's going on in Palestine this week. Just know this is not even remotely a comprehensive analysis. At the end of the day, it's not only not comprehensive, but it's as best as I can really do given my lack of actual contact. We try to do what we can, but FYI. this is just some of the things I think should be are notable. So, Israeli warplanes have carried out strikes in Khan Yunis with explosions and gunfire reported near the Nasser Medical Complex in southern Gaza City. If you're familiar, the Nasser Medical Complex has been under siege for quite some time. It's one of the major hospitals in Gaza that has been effectively out of service. At least 14 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli strikes overnight on Rafah and Deir el-Bala. I also just want to remind people that attacks on medical centers, hospitals, doctors' offices is a war crime. An Israeli captive soldier in Gaza died due to a shortage of medicine and food. The Qassam Brigade's military wing of Hamas said on Saturday. The Israeli army has also confirmed this. This death, to be clear, was the direct result of Israel's genocidal siege on Gaza. I just want to make that abundantly clear, because whenever people are complaining about how Hamas, is keeping keeping Israeli hostages, but these Israeli hostages do not have adequate food, do not have adequate medicine, this is because Israel refuses to allow medicine and food and water and other resources into Gaza. And so this has resulted in the death of another Israeli. Speaking of hostages, mediation efforts to end Israel's war on Gaza appear to be stalling. So Hamas official told Al Jazeera that Israeli negotiators have rejected the latest proposal for a ceasefire. Just to remind you all, this hostage exchange, the exchange of the Israeli hostages for the Palestinian hostages, aka prisoners, has been the demand by Hamas since October 7th. This was the point, almost the central point of the Al-Aqsa flood. There was some other reasons for Al-Aqsa flood, the attack on October 7th, but this was like their overarching demand, that they demand that in order to get your hostages back, you need to release the Palestinians that you're keeping in your illegal prisons, to be clear. And so every day that Israel refuses to allow these Palestinians out of these occupying prisons is another day that Israel is keeping these Israelis in Gaza. The Gaza that Israel is continually pummeling with bombs and just without care, killing their own people. The United States has made a bridging proposal for the number of jailed Palestinians to be released by Israel in exchange for every captive freed by Hamas in any new Gaza truce. An Israeli official briefed on the Qatar-hosted talks told the Reuters news agency on Saturday. An Israeli delegation has been holding indirect negotiations with the Palestinian group in Hamas in Doha. And also, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant will be traveling today to Washington, D.C. I believe it's today. So in America, Yoav Gallant is here to discuss with the U.S. officials developments on a captive exchange deal with Hamas. I personally don't have really much faith in any of this shit. And it frustrates me on a personal level how much the U.S. and Israel keep trying to insist that they never, ever have to let Palestinians free. Deliberately they know what needs to be done, but they're refusing to do it. So all of this blood is on their hands. For as far as the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has again called for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. This is when he was visiting Rafah on the Egyptian side, the Rafah border. Sorry, the Rafah border on the Egyptian side. He said any further onslaught will make things even worse for Palestinian civilians, worse for hostages, and worse for all people in the region. He also said that the starvation that Israel is causing Gazans inside, because Israel is sieging Gaza so horrifically, he called it a moral outrage. Should be noted that Israel has been restricting the entry of trucks into the Strip, creating a backlog of vehicles loaded with supplies on the Egyptian side of the Rafah crossing. The U.S. has officially stopped, as we discussed this a couple shows ago, by the way. The U.S. has officially now stopped the UN RWA funding at least until next year, March of next year in 2025. This is after Joe Biden signed a bipartisan funding bill into law. Just note that the UN RWA funding was really the only real source of humanitarian aid the Gazans were receiving. So this is going to be massively devastating for these people that are already absolutely hanging on by a thread. Yemen. Let's talk about Yemen for a second. A Chinese-owned oil tanker was attacked off of the border of Yemen on Saturday by ballistic missiles fired by the Houthi rebels, and who have intensified strikes on the Red Sea shipping. The Houthis are doing this because they demand Israel end its genocidal war on Gaza. This has always been their request. And they've made their demands explicitly clear, and made the repercussions explicitly clear, and have every right to do what they're doing, for the record. But still, the U.S. has designated them a terrorist organization because of their resistance to genocide. So put that in the history books. The U.S. Military Central Command also said its forces, quote unquote, engaged 6 Houthi drones over the southern Red Sea on Saturday, so yesterday.
And I wanted to make a couple of additions to the Palestine segment. Mainly, the first thing that I will add on here, which is that there has actually been confirmation that the UK Air Force has been operating in Gaza over the last 6 months, over the course of the last 6 months. I think the number is somewhere in between 49 to 64 RAF warplanes have been used. So, you know, when people are talking about Israel bombing Gaza, yeah, they absolutely have been, but do not let anybody tell you that the UK did not do that and was not involved in any way. It goes much deeper than us just supplying them weapons. Our Air Force has been killing Gazans, and everybody should fucking be aware of that.
The UK has freely admitted that they are flying aircraft that claim unarmed surveillance aircraft over Gaza. And this is they claim it's to help to locate hostages, but we know that at the very least, it's helping to assist the escalation of the genocide, the airstrikes.
If you're in an area where there is bombing taking place, a military operation of bombing, whether or not that leads to genocide or not, and you are not actively fighting against the people doing that, then you are taking part in it and you are helping, like, especially if you're helping, like, give people information, like, oh, we're gonna locate some hostage, here's some hostage information for you, it's on this hospital, oops, Israel just dropped a bomb there, shit, didn't mean for that to happen. Definitely, it's just sickening, like. But the second thing that I wanted to add on here is about the Al Jazeera documentary that dropped on Tuesday last week. I would highly recommend everybody go watch that if you have the time. It is a very thorough investigation and report into the actual events of October 7th. Be prepared to be mad because, if you thought that we've been lied to quite a lot, wait until you hear how much you've been lied to. So, the original number of quote-unquote Israeli civilians killed was 1,400, given by the IDF on October 7th. It actually turns out that only 782 civilians died that day. This is confirmed through, literally IDF Israel numbers. And the rest of the people who died, there was about 360 plus military or police or armed civilian sort of like guards who were killed. And of course, they are valid military targets in any kind of, like, if you're talking about war crimes. Not only that, but there were only 2 infants in terms of babies who were killed on that day that have been confirmed. One of them died during an emergency C-section, and one of them was shot through a door.
Wait, no babies were cooked in an oven by the evil Arabs?
Yeah.
What?
I can't begin to tell you
but
how
I
much.
I swear the Israeli medic said it.
Well, not just that, but Joe Biden said it in front of everyone. He said that he'd seen that and he hadn't seen it. It's absolutely disgusting and depraved. And yeah, how many of those civilians were murdered by the IDF is also not something that is entirely confirmed in the documentary. But what is confirmed is that helicopter pilots were joining WhatsApp groups to find out who to shoot, and that an informal version of the Hannibal Directive was basically issued by commanding officers when they figured out what was going on, because actually Hamas was so successful in disabling the Israeli communication system around Gaza that actually nobody knew what was happening. And so in terms of like what we've been lied to about, it's pretty much everything. There is also like no confirmation that there was any systematic, sexual assault used by anyone in Hamas. This was confirmed by like literal headcam footage. The only example that could be sort of alluded to having anything sexual or sexual assault related to it is one civilian was found with no underwear, no pants on. But again, there's not really any kind of evidence as to what has happened there in that regard. So it's damning. It's damning. And I think everybody should be completely aware that, the likes of Netanyahu, Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the EU, Rishi Sunak, Keir Starmer, everybody in the imperial court who has lied about this stuff, their names need to be remembered by history, because they have told these depraved, sick, disgusting fascist lies. Completely anti-Arab lies, completely white supremacist.
The
Yeah.
idea that these brown men would besmirch the alabaster skin of our women. Like, this is just classic fucking anti-Arab racism that so many people fell for. But you know what, Mule? Thank you for letting me know all this information. I'm sure all the people on social media that claim they are anti-Zionist, claim they care about Palestinians, but spread all these lies. I'm sure they're going to, apologize. I'm sure they're going to use their platforms that they've been using to spread all this garbage. I'm sure they're going to say something like, I was wrong. And you know what? I caused harm. I'm sure that's going to happen next.
Just waiting for Anat Schwartz to sit there and go, you know what? I'm not actually a journalist. I made all this stuff up. I'm really sorry about it. I feel terrible about myself. It's definitely going to happen. She's definitely not an absolutely unhinged fascist, genocidal freak. I'm sorry, but there are just no other words to describe it. However, that is the news for today. We made it through. Well done, Kira, my sweet co-host. You've done amazing. What a great job we both did at that.
I think you did a great job too. And if you, audience, think we did a great job, we want to remind you that Red Planet is made possible by the direct support of our viewers. So if you'd like to become a patron, we highly recommend you check out our Patreon at patreon.com/red_planet. You can become a patron for as little as $2 a month.
And our listeners as well, because we actually have we got listeners, we got viewers,
audience.
we got listeners, you did say audience, didn't you? It's just my brain that
you just wanted to mansplain because your whole
I made it up.
All right.
So what we got for you today, we've got an incredible guest. And he is here in the sidelines. It's Mark from MedKits 101, and he is going to be talking to us about how to be a medic at a protest. And I'm very excited to have him on. Mark, how are you doing?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Mark.
So, tell us a little bit about what you are here to discuss with us today. Give us sort of like a brief sort of background about what it is that you're all about.
Okay. So I am by trade paramedic. I was a paramedic for 10 years. And I'm no longer currently working in healthcare as of the past year. But when I was in healthcare, I worked on an ambulance in a city, like a decently sized city with a trauma center, a level 1. And then for about a year, I worked in the level 1 trauma center. And I excuse me, let me adjust. During the George Floyd uprisings, um, sort of threw in with a bunch of local comrades and got into doing protest medicine, street medicine. Um, and I think the the sort of boundary of medicine in general and protest specific stuff is probably what I'm here to talk about.
Hell yeah, that's exactly what we have invited you on to talk about. So that's absolutely wonderful. It's a really sort of like important element of organizing, I think, in general. Not just for protests, but also, if we are going to, for example, be starting organizations and having meetings, and there is the potential for anyone to be injured or maybe have a panic attack or some kind of traumatic situation happen to them in a meeting, whatever it is, accidents happen. And also, so do potentially attacks, like maybe some fascists might come to your meeting and have a fight with you, kind of thing.
Also, piggybacking on the thing we were talking about earlier about building dual power, like it really helps if, especially in America, where, you pay through the nose to get any sort of health care whatsoever, that you maybe can look within your community for that. Obviously, today we're not going to be talking about things that are super intense. We're going to be talking about more of like first aid, and other more like immediate uh, ways to help people. But that is still extraordinarily necessary and oftentimes overlooked. And it's part of building community and it's a part of building that self-sustaining community. So you can start to pull back from having to rely on a system that you're trying to abolish and instead build a system that's better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would go so far as to say, and this the one emergency medicine in America, in particular, which is all I can really speak to is America, um, is really heavily wrapped up in the sort of carceral system that we have. Um, you know, I very sometimes cheekily would say ACAB includes paramedics while I was a paramedic. And that's not entirely true, but you should basically treat anybody that comes to your door by way of calling 911 like they're a cop who just happens to be required to stabilize your vitals. And that the nurses at the emergency room, the physicians as well. Um, so
Well,
anything that
I've always said that like ACAB includes in this current system in America can include doctors. I don't think necessarily doctors are part of ACAB inherently. Like cops are inherently part of that, right? But doctors, they are mass. They operate a system that is ultimately like a white supremacist, patriarchal, like imperialist system that is gate kept heavily by those who have, it's not being gate kept by indigenous people. It's not being gate kept by our black comrades. It's being gate kept by a very particular demographic with power. But I'm very interested to learn a little bit more about what you just said, because that's very interesting to me that you see paramedics as maybe not necessarily, but maybe in the same vein that I see doctors as potentially part of ACAB as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and not just paramedics either, but EMTs, firefighters, all these groups of people, we work very closely together with police. I'll actually give you like kind of a personal example, a story here. Um, During the initial like run up of like the George Floyd stuff, and when I was kind of starting to get into protest medicine, I was also at that pretty much exact time. I was in training for trying out for my local agency's tactical medic team, which w basically the job is you get embedded with a SWAT team, and when they run like no knock raids and stuff, you're not necessarily in the stack, but you're like trained to be in the stack with them and you serve as their medic primarily. I wasn't really interested in that. I just from I had no interest in hanging out with a bunch of cops, but I wanted the training because it's good training. And so I was working very closely with all these people. And then I was at a protest, and there were a lot of arrests that occurred, and one of my comrades got taken down by the police, and then I watched them get forcibly sedated by a person on that tactical medic team that I was going to be working closely with, and dragged off to the hospital by another ambulance crew who was laughing while that happened. Um, so then I stopped, like I quit volunteering. I was like, well, I can't do that. That's the end of me wanting to do that anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
it's anyone who has that power to detain and forcibly detain, forcibly sedating someone, putting them into a situation where they can be detained. That's kind of the idea of ACAB, right? ACAB includes doctors for that specific reason. Like if a psychiatrist is able to put you in an asylum where you are like not free to leave of your own accord, that's that's them detaining you. They're putting you in a prison. So yeah, absolutely understand where you're coming from with that.
yeah, and the thing is like there's good medics, right? There's good people who are actually going to like be honest with you about your circumstances and what's going to happen next, and what your options are, and they're not going to lie to you. But you as the patient have no way of knowing who's who, because the bad ones will also tell you that they have your best interest at heart and that they're not going to lie to you. Um, so yeah, it's uh, my advice is pretty much always, if you're in a life-threatening emergency, call 911, right? Don't put your life in danger, but also don't tell those people anything that you wouldn't want read aloud in court that's not directly necessary to treat you. And that includes the nurses at the hospital, the physicians there as well. So that's kind of my advice.
No comment if you've potentially been smoking some weed in a state where you're not allowed to do so or whatever. Or maybe anything else that you've been doing. Like, yeah, if you've done something where you've had an accident, you're gonna have to talk about that like as much as you can, I guess. And so okay, I think that's a really good like primer for us talking about this episode, because it's not just protest healthcare that we need to think about. We do need to think about trying to build that dual power structure where we have empowered individuals in our midst who can do healthcare, right? So I think it's a really good topic to, I guess, lead into everything. And when we talk specifically about protest healthcare, it's generally speaking because the lives of people in a protest scenario and the health and the well-being of people is not necessarily something that's at the heart of the state in combating that, right? In the same way that the private health companies that benefit from the state, allowing them to operate, the well-being of their patients isn't necessarily the highest priority either. So talk to us a little bit more about your experience with the George Floyd uprisings, if you can, and what kind of I guess like street healthcare you would advise people to be aware of that is necessary in a protest environment.
Yeah. So to sort of front load this with some disclaimers, the every community is going to be different. Like the way your police respond are going to be different. So and then I think it's actually generally a net negative to get bogged down in like specific tactics, because tactics should change with conditions. But So don't necessarily take anything I'm going to say as gospel. This is just my personal experience. But what what I largely sort of how this happened for me is I was watching the news and I saw, like all this going down in my community because we had some pretty extensive rioting. And I was like, okay, well, I kind of know whose side I'm instantly on in this, and let me figure out how to do this. And I literally just like packed up a first aid kit and like put it in my backpack, and I went to a rally. And at that time, medics in my community were marking. They would like mark themselves to be visibly identifiable. That's not really a thing here anymore anyway, because police were targeting people who were marking. But at the time, it was pretty easy to like, go over. And these are all like for clarity, I'm pushing 40, and these are all like Zoomers and younger folks. Um, and I very much it was very much a like, how do you do, fellow kids moment. And basically everybody immediately thought I was a cop. Um, and I basically had to like, just be like, hey, look, like I work with the police, like frankly, and I'm not gonna lie to you about that. But I want to help, and this is my skill set, and I'm willing to show up and do stuff. And um, folks were very receptive to that, and so I started going to more of these events. And what I found in my experience that was uh, the most beneficial, the things that you see most frequently. By the way, I want to kind of put this out there. I am really bad at gauging what is and is not a trigger warning, content warning for medical stuff. That part of my brain is broken.
Don't worry, because we have an editor, and those who are live will suffer. Uh, that's how we do things here.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm really bad at that. So just I'm probably going to say some stuff that's upsetting at some point. I apologize. Um, so the things that we encountered most frequently were tear gas, pepper spray, and then um, heat exhaustion is a big one that a lot of folks don't think about. And then uh, had like some blood sugar emergencies and things like that. Like dehydration is another big one. So those are kind of your big ones in areas where police are using like impact munitions, so like rubber bullets and things like that. You probably have to worry about blunt force injuries. But for the most part, most of the stuff that I dealt with was um, you know, irrigation, treating minor, flesh wounds kind of stuff, and then just giving people electrolytes and little snack crackers and stuff to keep them in the fight. Um, we didn't have a whole lot of really significant casualties, but we always tried to prepare for that, knowing where your trauma centers are and um, making sure everybody was prepared for like the worst case scenario. But mostly it was just a lot of water and irrigation.
So that's absolutely, I think, vital to know, just with regard to how violent the police were against the George Floyd uprisings. Like they were some of the most disgusting police tactics that have been seen for like quite some time in the US.
Yeah, I watched a sheriff's deputy walk up to like an 80-year-old lady like 3 feet away, and she was in a wheelchair and spray her right in the face. Like,
And I think actually it would be really important to, because I think knowledge is power, right? I don't think that, I know that, but I think it would be pretty important for us to just hear exactly what kind of effect that would have. Like how would that have impacted that lady? Like obviously there are so many risks involved with like that cop doing that to her. What I think would be really important is like, how does your brain start working as a medic in that specific situation?
Yeah. So the most important thing with not just tear gas, or spray, tear gas in particular, this is important, but pretty much any incident like that is, there's a phrase that gets thrown around in like tactical circles and stuff, and it's called get off the X. It just means don't be where the bad thing is happening, especially when you're dealing with chemical warfare agents, essentially, aerosolized capsaicin, and tear gas. Those things are going to continue to hurt you when you're in the area where they're having an effect. So the first thing to do is get you and everybody the fuck out of there. You can't treat somebody for like tear gas exposure or pepper spray exposure when you're in a cloud of tear gas and pepper spray. So get out. Um, then once you get to a safe, stable place, there's going to be, so this is presuming that somebody doesn't have any like pre-existing severe respiratory problems. We can talk about that case in a second, but just generally speaking, what you're going to see is, you know, um, mucous membrane effects, so runny nose, coughing, difficulty breathing, watery eyes, redness and swelling to the mucous membranes, and also skin, right? This stuff is, it's a very, um, I'm forgetting the word, but it it messes your skin up, like it'll cause redness.
Irritants.
Thank you. Yes, it's very, it's a chemical irritant. Um, and so the person who is affected by this probably has never had anything like this happen to them before. Um, they are almost certainly going to be incredibly upset. They're probably, and this isn't to minimize anything, but generally speaking, these chemicals are not life-threatening. They are very painful, but they're not, unless you have a pre-existing condition, they're probably not going to kill you. But it feels like they're going to. Um, and so they're going to be incredibly upset, rightfully so, right? Of course, right? You just took a face full of a chemical weapon. And they're going to be coughing. They're going to feel like they can't breathe. So the first thing that you need to do is get all of the stuff off of them. A lot of these chemicals are designed to be persistent in the environment. So especially like pepper spray is actually in an oil suspension. So it's very difficult to wash off. It's designed to stick to your body, to stick to your clothing, tear gas as well to a lesser extent. But still. So first thing you want to do is, if we're wearing glasses, take the glasses off. If you're wearing contacts, get the contacts out of your eyes. Tear gas, pepper spray are not going to melt your contacts. That's a urban legend. That doesn't happen, but it is going to hold those chemicals close to your eye, and you're not going to be able to flush them. So you need to get them out. Then you want to, if possible, right, if modesty is not a concern, you want to get the clothing off of that person because the clothing is going to hold it close to their skin. It's going to continue to burn. You're still going to get fumes from it. Always a great idea if you're going to a protest to wear a second layer, not just because it can be a different color and you can take the first layer off and not be visibly the person you were just a second ago, but if you get a chemical exposure, you can just take that off. And then your primary treatment from there physically is irrigation. You want to use clean water or you want to use medical grade saline, and that's it. You don't want to use milk. You don't want to use antacid wash. You don't want to use any of that stuff. Just clean water, saline if you have it. My personal recommendation is if you know that you're going to be going into an area where that's going to be effect, is to get some smart water, like smart water brand, the bottles. They have these little, not all of them, but some of them have these little nozzle tops. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, but you don't care about the bottle, you just want these little nozzle tops. And the reason you want them is because they are just the perfect size for irrigation. They're not too small, so they're not going to send like a, sharp jet of water into your mucous membranes. They're just big enough to really force the water in without being painful. And they fit on any 2-liter bottle. So you just get a couple of these, keep them in your pack. You know you're going to go to a protest, just get a bunch of 2-liter bottles, clean them out, fill them with water. You can just put the cap on them and you're good to go. You can easily irrigate a dozen people.
That's a great tip. Thank you for that. We love practical tips like that here.
So when it comes to irrigation, you don't start at like the top of the head because that can wash more chemical into the eyes. You want to start at the eyes and just sort of irrigate away from the eyes. So ideally have somebody facing down and then like irrigate into the eyes so the water's falling off of them. And then that's pretty much just what you're going to do from there on out. That's going to be the next 10, 20 minutes with that person. It depends on how, severe their exposure was. The respiratory component should start to improve once you get it away if they were having issues there. Yeah, that's basically the treatment for it. As far as the psychological aspect, and this is true of any medical emergency where you are providing care, um, your your especially in this situation, your primary goal is just to reassure the person, be like, hey, look, I know this hurts. This is really painful. This is gonna hurt for a little while. There's not a lot we can do about it other than what we're doing, and we're going to take care of you, and you're safe right now with us. We're going to make sure nothing happens to you while we're together, and we're going to irrigate your eyes because of all the reasons I just described. We might need to remove some of your clothing if you're okay with that for all of the reasons I described, and just have like a back and forth communication with the person, explain what you want to do, why you want to do it, how that will help them, and then obtain their consent to do it. Did hopefully that answered the question about like chemical irritants.
No, this is very thorough. I have a follow-up question. It's less to do with the immediate first aid to provide to somebody else, but more of like advice on what to do after. Because your body will still be harboring a lot of those oils, right? Just not your mucous membranes as much because we flush them for so long. So when somebody goes home from like a protest after being doused, what's the protocol for making sure those oils get off them in a way that doesn't further irritate their mucous membranes?
Well, unfortunately, there isn't a way to do it without further irritation. That's another thing that you just kind of have to educate somebody on is, hey, look, when you go home, number one, these clothes that you're wearing, you're probably not going to be able to wear them again. Um, uh, your contacts that you're wearing, those are probably done for. I would not try to put these back in. Don't wear your glasses again until you've been able to thoroughly wash them with soap and water. Um, and then cold shower. And there's a good chance that if you still have some of this stuff on your body, that the water could sort of reactivate it and it could be incredibly irritating. Um, and that's just the nature of the thing. It's something you should expect. What you should do before you take a shower, is if possible, because we were avoiding washing the forehead because we don't want to get stuff running back into the eyes. If you go take a shower, what's the first thing you do in the shower? You dunk your head under the faucet, right? So now you've got tear gas or pepper spray flowing into your eyes again. So you as the person who's caring for your comrade or could, while you're doing that, maybe like get a washcloth or a sponge and like wipe up away from their eyes to try to get some stuff off their forehead. Or you could tell them to do that when they get home, but just explain to them you want to figure out a way to like clean off your head and the upper part of your face without having any of that liquid run into your eyes. Um, and then take a cold shower and just understand that there's a chance that it's going to continue to hurt for like until you get it completely washed off. And the only thing to do is just wash it off with soap and water and shampoo.
And cold because the active ingredient will be potential. It's going to hurt more if hot, I'm guessing. Is that
And
why?
it's just going to be a little more irritating. It doesn't have to be like super cold, but just like room temperature.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you.
And so this particular, obviously that's like how you deal with just anyone who's been pepper sprayed, right? Um in terms of this old lady, was there anything else that sort of like popped into your head to be like, okay, we also need to be thinking about
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. So with her, and it's she had a pre-existing respiratory condition as well. She had I can't remember what it was. It's also, I think it was either asthma or COPD. It was some type of reactive airway disease that she had an albuterol inhaler for. Um, and as you can imagine, that set her condition off. So, you know, we we just kind of like made sure we got her out of that environment and did all the other stuff, but we also basically just helped her use her inhaler, so that, she could treat that. In that particular instance, I think it's been a while. I want to say we recommended like that a family member take her to the emergency room. Um, but she did ultimately improve using just her that's what happened. Sorry, it's been a couple years. So she did improve using her inhaler. And then we told her like, hey, if this continues to get worse, then you probably should go to the hospital. Have somebody else drive you. You don't have to tell them what happened. Say you sprayed yourself with mace or whatever. Uh, but yeah, like people with reactive airway diseases, that can like asthma, COPD, that can get really aggravated by this stuff. So if you have asthma, if you have COPD and you're going to a protest, make sure you have a rescue inhaler with you. Like if you have it, like if you're prescribed one, take it with you because you may wind up needing it.
Yeah, I think that's really, really solid. So yeah, that's really, I think that's super important to know with regards to how that can affect someone with respiratory issues. Is there any other kind of condition that could make things lethal for pepper spray being used on someone?
Uh, Not really, unless you have like just a severe allergy to like capsaicin or the oil and you just have an allergic reaction. Um, you know, not to uh not to like lend my voice to the what is essentially like propaganda for, oh, this stuff's so safe. We shouldn't be using it on anybody, right? Unless they're like the only role for pepper spray, in my opinion, is, which by the way, I think it's a good thing for people to have and carry. I carry pepper spray because it's an intermediary between, having to use lethal force to defend yourself. But that's the only role that's the only time it should exist or should be deployed. It shouldn't be being deployed by, you know, police against citizens. That
But Mark, those citizens were so scary though. They were so scary and they were doing horrible things like standing up for marginalized communities. That's really scary.
but that said, and this is specifically like OC spray, pepper spray, stuff that uses capsaicin as the primary irritant. Tear gas is a different story. But pepper spray it's pretty safe. Like you're not going to die from it. I've seen hundreds of people get sprayed by pepper spray. I don't know of a single fatality that I'm aware of, or even somebody who was like seriously, like I think I'm maybe like one person I know like was seriously fucked up from it and had to be treated like aggressively for airway compromise, and that's because they had a pre-existing like really bad airway disorder. Um, tear gas is a different beast. Who the fuck knows what's in whatever tear gas they're using? It's cumulative and it's like it's almost certainly carcinogenic over long periods of exposure. So I don't want to speak to that as confidently as I do pepper spray. That said, I'm also not aware of any like immediate fatalities occurring as a result of tear gas exposure.
Hey, thank you for that. Let's see. I'm seeing a lot of questions in the chat with regards to what you're saying, and normally we keep questions until the end, but I'm contemplating if we should ask you that some of them right now since we're on
For
the
sure, yeah.
topic.
There's one right here that I'm looking at. Would it be good practice to bring spare inhalers to protest? So so I think it's not a bad idea to have those for people who maybe are prescribed them but didn't bring their own. Um, you m Most people are not going to need a inhaler in order to recover from a chemical like irritant exposure like pepper spray or tear gas. And in fact, potentially because of the way most inhalers, I'm presuming you're talking about like an albuterol inhaler, which is a bronchodilator, potentially um, that could actually make things worse if you really open up their bronchioles and then they have like a repeat exposure and then now they're getting more of that stuff in their lungs because their bronchioles are bigger than they were or have dilated larger than they were before. So um I would not treat anybody with albuterol for tear gas or pepper spray exposure. I never have, just as a medic. It's not something I've ever done. However, there are a lot of people who have reactive airway diseases who leave their inhalers at home, and those people probably really do need them if they get an exposure. If they start having wheezing and like they know what it feels like when they're having a flare up. So if you have an extra one for those folks, that's a good idea.
Gets be kind of tricky figuring out who needs what in a time where people are like doubled over and like can't even probably speak.
Just be like, hey, do you have any like so like one of the first things sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you.
No, you're answering my question, so go ahead.
So like one of the first things that you should do in any situation where you're treating somebody medically is get a basic history. So like uh let's say DJ Mule is like got hit in the face with some pepper spray. I walk up, I'm like, hey, my name's so and so. A medic here. I'm here to help you. Listen, you got hit with some tear gas. This is what I'd like to do. I'd like to irrigate your face. I'd like to get your first layer of your clothes off because it's going to continue to irritate you. But I need to know some stuff from you before I treat you because I don't want to hurt you. Um, do you wear contacts? Do you have any allergies to any medications or foods? Are you allergic to peppers? Do you have any medical conditions, particularly like respiratory, that would cause issues here that I need to be aware of? Um, and then like you can ask those questions while you're doing stuff, right? Like while you're irrigating somebody's eyes, you can get that. And they're not going to want to tell you right away anyway, because they're going to be like, fuck, I got pepper spray in my face. But eventually they will answer some of those questions and that'll help guide you in what you need to do.
So forgive me because this isn't something we come across in the UK at all. But what you're telling me, what I'm hearing is pepper spray is literally just peppers, the food. It's
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah, it's just concentrated capsaicin and oil.
The thing that makes things spicy, it's the oil.
The spiciest peppers that they could get, and they were like, we're gonna turn that into an oil and spray it on people. That's what they did. That's what they said. That's fucking wild, actually, that I'm learning that. So my next question is, if you're a freak like me who loves very spicy stuff, can you have so much spice that you become immune?
This is in your eyes, though.
Yeah, but could you microdose it in your eyes? Could you maybe rub a little bit and then? No,
Um,
I'm joking. Obviously, you can't
yeah,
do
I mean, you can absolutely give it a shot. Like, I mean, if you like, it's not expensive. Like, if you want to give it a whirl, like, record it for
Okay,
me though.
You
I
become an
will.
Antifa super soldier. You walk up, just
Yeah, in the training camps, you just got all of us there throwing jalapeno dust in
No,
everyone's
that
eyes.
actually would be like really dope for like a psychological operation, like psychological effect. You just walk up to a stack of cops and just spray yourself in the face with pepper spray and drop
Yeah,
it
just
like a
going
right
microphone.
now, bitch. And
Yeah,
then they just shoot you because it's America.
yeah, yeah.
They would take him down. Yeah, this one's too fruity.
Yeah, please don't actually do that, anybody. I think so like I don't remember like what the Cavalli scale for it is, but it's like it's bananas. Like it's literally just pure like concentrated pain juice. Like
Yeah, you're not going to be able to microdose yourself into immunity. I don't think from that.
So to be clear, just for the distinction between tear gas and pepper spray, the delivery of these two, is pepper spray the one that they have in the canister and spray directly, and tear gas is the one they shoot, like the canisters that fly out and then just give off gas, and that's a more indiscriminate formula, is what you were saying?
yeah, so they're different chemical makeups, and I am not 100% like there's different chemicals that they tear gas is sort of like uh it's like a generic term. Like there's no one tear gas. There's a bunch of different like chemical formulations that are used. Uh Pepper spray, also often hear it called OC spray, is it is just basically pressurized oil with a lot of capsaicin in it. And then that, yeah, it's in a canister. Oftentimes you'll see, so pepper spray can aerosolize. And I've been in situations where that has happened, where like, especially if they get like the big, like bear mace looking things, and they spray those, that can like aerosolize into the local environment and like get on your skin.
I've been in a bathroom where someone sprayed one time, and we were like, we can't go back in that bathroom for a little bit because it's just
And tear gas is like the best way to think about it would be pepper spray is a targeted like attack. Like it's like firing a gun at somebody, like I'm shooting you. Whereas tear gas is an area denial weapon. Tear gas is meant to nobody's going to be in the next square, however many yards or whatever. Like we're going to make sure nobody, like the block is shut down. Um,
gotcha. And those canisters can also harm as well, like not just the formula, but I've seen, at least if what I recall from the BLM uprisings, that shooting the canisters, because they're kind of shot with these like grenade launchers or something, right? And they themselves can cause damage to people because it's like an object flying through the air launched.
yeah, for sure.
So, really, really important kind of thing to, because I popped off just a second ago to try and find a tear gas sort of like head that I have. I was given it as a gift from the ZAD, but I don't know where it is, and I think someone might have stolen it, and I'm not too bothered about it because it's like whatever, they've got loads there still, they just come across them in the woods all the time. But yeah, in terms of like understanding how these weapons are used, how these weapons are used against civilians when we're protesting and stuff like that is very, very important. And in terms of fighting back against it, I mean, a lot of this stuff just comes with first aid training. You're actually very experienced with a higher grade version of that, paramedic training, right? But first aid training, I imagine, is probably the very basic, like, sort of, I guess, like ground level of where you should be if you want to engage in this kind of stuff. Could you talk to us a bit about that?
Yeah. So I actually was, I also, I forgot to mention this in my intro, but I taught at the EMT level for about a year. So I've taught like basic trauma care, like stop the bleed stuff, CPR, and just basically the entire EMT curriculum, which is the grade below paramedic. Um, so in terms of basic education, there's you can kind of go as deep as you want on this stuff, but I think that for the most part, what most people need to know is basic in terms of not just protest stuff, but just in general, right? Like, how do I, what's the way I think about it is what would I want the people who called 911 and I showed up at their house about to treat them, what would I have wanted them to know and done before I got there? That kind of stuff. Um, and for most people, the two most important things that you can do are uh, take, if you have the ability, uh, or otherwise learn the information contained within a Stop the Bleed course, which will cover how to treat life-threatening hemorrhage. And that includes learning the difference between like what is a visually impressive but not life-threatening bleed and what is an actual life-threatening bleed. That's a something you just have to like see um, to be able to know the difference. So one of those courses, they're available all over America. I'm not quite sure what the availability is elsewhere in the world, but they're pretty easy to find. And then the next one would be a CPR course. Uh, so just a basic how to do chest compressions, be able to actually get hands on a CPR mannequin and learn like how much force you need to do, how fast it is, how tiring it is, how to use an AED effectively. Those are the two big things I would recommend for most people.
It's
Um,
surprising actually how kind of like I can't remember which one it is. It's surprising either how much or how little force you actually need to do chest compressions because it's like I remember doing my first aid training on one of the dolls and it's like that specific place where you feel like that indentation in the rib cage, right? And then it's like two fingers down or something and then you do the compressions there, yeah?
yeah,
Yeah.
basically like between like kind of just above like your xiphoid process, like about like mid nipple line, like nipple line is a good place to go. Um, and basically what you're looking for there is 2 inches of compression. You want to compress the first off, make sure they're not on a soft surface. CPR does not work on a bed or couch. You have to have something hard because what you're actually doing with CPR is you're using your hands to push um, against whatever hard surface their back is on, and literally squeeze their heart and beat it to circulate blood because their heart's not beating. And it's yeah, you need about 2 inches of compression, unless it's a very small child, like an infant or somebody whose bones haven't fully, like little babies are basically just made out of rubber. But if it's an adult, you're almost certainly going to crack the ribs. It's going to sound really gnarly. It's going to feel incredibly gross. It's one of the only things I never got used to. Um, but once you do that first, like once you actually crack their ribs, then it's basically just like pushing on a bag of soup and it gets easier. Um, sorry.
It's so wild. It's so
Yeah.
completely wild, just like the way that the body works. But no, it's important. But it's important to know, like, this is the reality of what this stuff means, and I think it's important for you to talk about it frankly in that way, because experience is absolutely vital in this regard. So yeah, you were talking about like learning about uh, doing a stop the bleed course and CPR training. Is there anything else in terms of like good resources for first aid training?
Yeah. So Stop the Bleed CPR course. If you have a local like medic collective in your area, like if you're in a place with like a lot of leftists. Usually there'll be like a street medic collective, and frequently medic collectives will run like, they'll either do like a day-long training course, or sometimes they'll do like a 20-hour training course where it's like five, and they'll teach essentially all the same stuff. You're probably not going to walk away with like a little card that you can put in your pocket, but you'll get the information all the same, right? Um, for folks who don't have any like access to, in-person training, um, I have a playlist that I put together on my YouTube channel. It is, in my opinion, not a substitute. Unfortunately, this is one of those things where you really do need like hands-on training to be effective, but knowledge is better than no knowledge. And I kind of went all over YouTube and I found what I thought were the videos that best illustrated a lot of this stuff. And I put them together in a playlist that kind of follows the like hemorrhage, airway, bleeding, circulation pathway for treating um, major life-threatening injuries. So stuff for stop the bleed, like tourniquets, wound packing, treating penetrating chest wounds, uh, Narcan use, airway management, all that stuff. There just to be fully like content warning wise, a lot of the thumbnails in that playlist have just explicit gore in them. There's no way around it. You're dealing with hemorrhage control. One of the videos, I want to be very sure to highlight this, is a video that is showing a real like arterial bleed, because that's a life-threatening bleed and that's what will kill you. And it is important, in my opinion, to know what that looks like. Unfortunately, the only way to know what that looks like is to actually see one. And so this video was produced by the Department of Defense, and they killed a pig to make the video. Uh, the pig was sedated, as far as I'm aware. You don't actually hear anything in the video. It's just a video of a femoral bleed that ultimately resulted in the animal's death. Feel free to skip over that if that's going to upset you, because obviously that's quite upsetting for a lot of people. But I do think it's important to see how stark the difference is between just regular bleeding and, oh, this is like gonna kill you bleeding. So just if you click on that link, I'm sure it's somewhere around. Just be aware that that's in there, and I don't want anybody to get surprised by that.
Gotcha. Um, so I wanted to. So you mentioned tourniquets just a second ago, and listen, I'm not in these circles. I don't know. Um, I don't know about all the discourse and stuff, but I have seen actually discourse since speaking to like some people who do stuff like what you do at protests and all that kind of stuff. I have seen some discourse around tourniquets. Do you know anything about that? There's some people who say that lots of people put lots of reliance on tourniquets and it's too much and it's bad or whatever. Do you know what I'm talking about? Can you speak to this at all? That's my question for you, our guest.
I'm so I'm not sure. So there is. So I may know what you're talking about. So there's kind of like a conversation going on right now in the like tactical medic community, where they're debating the efficacy of tourniquets being like the level of primacy that we've placed on them up to now. Um, and the 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 logic behind the argument sort of against the primacy for them is that um, pretty much the reason that tourniquets have been documented to be such a life-saving device is because the primary uh, test bed for that equipment has been soldiers in the like the like global war on terror, like the 20-year campaign that the US arguably is still engaged in. And all of those people are wearing some form of body armor that covers their heart, their lungs, their diaphragm, their head, um, and all these other places where you're going to get like light switched instantly if you take a hit there. So what's left? Well, it's junctional areas, your hips, like your inguinal area, and like your shoulders, and then your like brachial and femoral and like popliteal arteries and stuff in your arms and your legs. That's what's going to kill you. So that's why we see tourniquet use being so high. Um, and so the argument is, well, that's not really something that happens in civilian use, or in that's not a big civilian use case for that. And so we should probably like deprioritize, because they had been pushing like everybody should have a tourniquet. You should know how to use a tourniquet. Everybody needs one. Um, in first aid circles. And now there's some thought saying, well, maybe we should like walk back from that a little bit. And my argument, that's sort of, I think that's what you might be referencing. That's the kind of what I'm familiar with. My argument to that is a high quality tourniquet is at most $30. By the way, don't buy these things on Amazon. Get them from the actual manufacturer. Um, North American Rescue, and I can't remember who makes the SOFT off the top of my head, but if you want to get one of those, get it from the manufacturer. They're like 35 bucks at most. If you have, again, watch that video of a femoral bleed. You can bleed to death in 30 seconds to a minute from a femoral bleed. Like you can lose enough of your blood volume that you probably won't make it to the hospital alive.
That's wild. Of
Why wouldn't you have that at your
course,
disposal?
of course. Well,
Like
what's the
it's
alternative?
Yeah, and there really isn't one. Yeah, better to have it and not need it or better than to need it and not have it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I didn't
Because
know that. Sorry,
I
somebody in
know.
your
Oh,
chat is
sorry.
like, NAR provides discounts to movement groups. I didn't know that. That's really dope.
So we what was I gonna say? So yeah, well, one thing that obviously I don't know about femoral bleeds that much. I do know, I can't remember exactly what the first aid training that I had was about when it came to that stuff. Well, the things that I do remember are things like if someone has a lung puncture or something,
Mm,
and how to use like a credit card and a bit of tape to
mm,
like
yeah.
stop that from bleeding, and also keep the because if you cover it up entirely, your lung will collapse or something like that. I can't remember what it is, but you need to have like a bit of air in there so it doesn't actually collapse until you get to the
So
paramedic or something.
so that's kind of an older school way of teaching it. So just very rough biology, or like pathophysiology of what that's treating is, you have these sacs around your lungs, um, and between them, like they're basically like right next to your lungs, and there's a little bit of fluid between your lungs and those sacs, and they just kind of protect your lungs and help them move. If you get a penetrating injury to your lung, um, what happens is it's called a sucking chest wound, and every time you um, take a breath in, air leaks out of your lung and into the space between that sac and your lung. And every time you take a breath out, the negative pressure sucks air in from the outside and fills that sac. And then eventually the sac expands so much that it causes your lungs to collapse. And the primary thing that it does that kills you is it puts pressure on your great vessels like your aorta and the top chambers of your heart. And then eventually you just die. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to prevent air from being sucked in through that hole. Um, you also want to be able to vent air out because it's a exchange of pressure. Um, So they and they still teach this, but the thought process was is that you would cover the hole with something that is solid and non-permeable, like a credit card or like a chip bag or cellophane or something like that, where air is not going to get through it. And you would tape it on three sides. And then when the pressure of like when it's sucking air in, it's going to pull it into the skin and it's not going to come out. And then uh, when the pressure inside you increases, there'll still be a way for it to like flutter out. That's kind of what's going on there. And I have some videos on that in that playlist that go over the condition, how to use a commercial chest seal, which I highly recommend if you have the ability to get them, and then how to make an improvised chest seal like what you were describing.
Cool. Yeah, that's really that's really really helpful. Yeah, good to know that that's like still kind of something that's accepted knowledge. I guess this is just like, first aid
Credit
stuff.
cards, like if you don't have anything else, it will work because it's non-permeable, but ideally you would want something that would like cover and like move with your body. So like honestly, like what I usually tell people when it comes to like building first aid kits for like daily carry is just throw all the shit in a Ziploc baggie, right? Because and then you can clip a tourniquet to the outside because that's the only thing you need super quick, and then you can just use the baggie for like a sucking chest wound if you need to, and that'll move with your body.
Smart. Very, very smart. Well, we've actually just kind of gone into the next question that I was gonna ask, which is what equipment? And I have a fun interactive bit to do here because on the show maybe a year or two ago, one of the bits of homework was to get a first aid kit, and I've still got mine, and I've used some stuff from it, and I'm gonna double check with you and see if the stuff that I have in there is enough in your expert opinion. But I actually have to go and run and get it because I forgot to do that before you came on. So Kira, if you have any questions. Sorry about that.
All right. Apparently I'm now need to instantly come up with a new direction that will then veer off into Mule's direction as soon as he returns.
If it helps, I do want to mention something somebody's talking about in chat here.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
So Hieronymus said, so all of this stuff is to buy time for moving a trauma patient to a hospital as soon as possible. So always have a plan to move patients safely to an emergency room. That is absolutely correct. And I cannot stress enough that there's some stuff you can treat and you don't need to go to the hospital for, like pepper spray, tear gas, probably. If you have a traumatic injury, like if you are using a tourniquet, if you are treating a sucking chest wound, if you're packing a wound, that person needs surgery to survive. Like you are buying time to get to an operating room, and that person absolutely 100%, there is no debate, needs to go to a hospital. There's a lot of stuff you can, and I'm not like, big on encouraging people to go to what is essentially just a failed healthcare system that we have in America. But when it comes to trauma, you need to go to a trauma center, or you're basically just buying time to say goodbye. Like,
yeah, of course.
So I'm sorry. I just wanted to.
No,
that's a good point that somebody in your chat made.
Don't apologize, Kira. I'm sorry for putting you on the spot. Mark, I'm sorry for leaving you. Okay, so so what I've got here is, and I've had this, it cost me maybe like, I don't know, £10 or something like that, like maybe £15. I'm holding it up for people in the chat to see. It's first aid. The brand is Active Era. I don't really know. So what do I have in here? Okay, the first thing that I have that I actually like, I think is pretty important. These are little scissors, little baby scissors with big arms. Can you see these, Mark?
Yeah, I can see them.
What's that about?
Can you hold those a little closer to the camera? Can you hold the blade, like open the blades and put them up a little closer to the camera?
I can.
Okay.
So it
Are
has
those
like a
the
little
only scissors in
curved
there?
blade. Is there any others, did you say?
Yeah.
That's a negative.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I mean, I think those are probably, I'm gonna assume there's a bunch of like tape and gauze in there as well
I got a whole bunch of that stuff. I got loads of that stuff.
for cutting that.
Gotcha.
So not a bad thing to have. So let me do this. When you say let's talk about first aid kits, I like to think of kits in terms of what their use case is going to be. So like, are we talking a general first aid kit for like, I want to have something in my house for like treating general everyday stuff? Or are we talking, I want to have something that I'm going to use to treat immediate life-threatening injuries?
That second one. That's why we've got you on the show. Um, obviously, like protest stuff, just in case like that kind of stuff happens in protests. It's more likely to happen there, right? But also, it could just happen at any kind of like leftist organizing stuff. You don't know if a fascist is going to turn up with an AK-47 or whatever, like AR-15, and shoot up a meeting or whatever, right? So I got that. I got them scissors. That's for the bandages. So let's have a look at the bandages. What do I got here? I got two triangular bandage.
Okay.
And it's got a little picture of like someone wearing it on their head and someone wearing it on their sling as a sling.
Mm-hmm.
And then other bandages. Let's have a look. I also had a bunch of like fabric plasters in here that I've used.
Blasters.
Yeah, plasters of band-aids. Yeah, it's British for band-aid.
Gotcha.
So what are these? Okay, you'll be able to tell me. I don't know why I'm asking. Non-adherent sterile pad. That's what that says.
Okay.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
is that?
That's
Kind of what it is. It says what it is. It's a pad that doesn't adhere and it's sterile.
so what that's for is you put that on like a wound that you're gonna wrap. And
So, yes, I would wrap, hang on a minute, with this, which is elastic conforming. Kira is laughing so much, by the way. No one can hear this. She's laughing at me. This says here, elastic conforming bandage, right? So I would like put this sterile pad on a wound,
mhm.
presumably after cleaning it with, I don't have any of these left, an alcoholic wipe, like an isopropyl alcoholic wipe, and then I would put that on there, and then I would put it on with this elastic bandage, and then put a little bobby pin in it or something, right?
Yeah. So you wouldn't want to clean. Is there anything else? Is there anything else in there?
There's loads more stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
hang on.
Well, let's just don't clean like major wounds with like alcohol wipes and stuff. Those are for like prepping areas. Um,
Right.
yeah. If you need to like sterilize something, then you can do that. But you ideally you would just want to flush the wound clean with like sterile water or saline and then wrap it.
Gotcha. Okay, that's pretty good to know, because yeah, this came with alcohol wipes, and what's the reasoning behind that? Sorry.
It's going to irritate it, and
Gotcha.
it's frankly, it's just not like the little alcohol pad's just not going to do anything to sterilize it. It's too little.
Gotcha. Brilliant. Well, that's good to know. I've been using it wrong. The next thing I've got is I got one of these. Well, I got two of these. It's an instant cold compress.
Gotcha. To answer Swolsome, yeah, and also don't use peroxide either. It's counterproductive to the healing.
You mean hydrogen peroxide, right?
Hmm.
What is that? Like bleach? Was hydrogen
It,
peroxide?
I don't know if this ever took off in the UK, but it's been like a thing in America for years. People would put peroxide on wounds because it bubbles, and they thought it just don't use it. If you never heard of it, then don't worry about it. But if it's something you're doing now, yeah, just use soap and water, like person in chat said.
The way that I treat my wounds, to say I get like a cut on my finger, I flush it underwater. I'll wash with soap and water. and then I'll let it, either air dry or maybe like dab it with what I presume to be a clean enough cloth, but I can never really not very sure. So I usually let it air dry, and then I put on a little bit of like antibiotic ointments.
Mhm. Yeah, like a berry or something. Yep, that's yep, correct. Everything you said is right.
So that's good to know that I've been doing first aid wrong. And we don't have, and also what that's like is that's like when people say that you should mix baking powder or baking soda with vinegar and it makes it clean better, but it actually doesn't. It just looks like it does because it's bubbling and it's just having a reaction because it's an acid and an alkaline. Anyway, right. So the next thing I've got in here is emergency blanket. Yep, emergency blanket. It's 210 by 130 centimeters and it's silver. It's aluminized, non-stretching polyester and stays flexible in freezing temperature. Okay, what's next? I got eye wash. Talking about eye wash. It's a tiny little bottle of eye wash. Mark, how many people do you think that would get their eyes washed? What, did you catch it? How big it is?
Yeah. What is that? Like, is it just saline?
Let me tell you right now. Topical irrigation solution, sodium chloride.
Yeah, it's saline. Okay. So I don't know, like I don't like dividing people into like fractions. Like an eighth of a person.
Yeah, so this is not gonna it's not gonna do anything. Okay. And then finally, I guess. I just have some safety pins. I got safety pins. And I think there was other stuff in here, but I can't remember what they are. But most of the stuff was band-aids. Oh, I also have tweezers. Some turquoise tweezers.
So you do have some things in there that could potentially be used for like a life-threatening emergency. But not probably in the way that they are, marketed or what their instructions would tell you. So, you can make an improvised tourniquet out of triangle bandages. And there's a video in that playlist that shows you how to do it. You actually need two of them, so it's good that you've got two. You also would need something to work as a windlass, which you don't have. The best thing for that would be a set of trauma shears, which are just Google trauma shears. They're scissors that are specifically made for cutting clothing. So you can expose an area to like, see like injuries and stuff. Um, and then the blanket is potentially useful if somebody's in shock. You want to maintain their core body temperature because that is part of the I can't remember the term, but basically, if you don't maintain somebody's core body temperature, it can make like the one of the things that makes shock bad worse. That's good to have. Everything else in there is basically just for boo-boos, and it's not going to do anything to really keep you alive.
Good to know.
This is a great episode for me to cold open with my microneedling spiel about how I'm poking a bunch of hundreds of needle point pricks in my face after this show to induce collagen production while also not creating any scarring.
Mark, what do you think about that from a paramedic's point of view?
No comment. I don't even know what that is.
I feel less alone. But I know what it is now, and it's very interesting. But okay, so yeah, very cool. But I think going on to that. So what on from that, I should say. So you talked about tourniquet, and you talked about windlass. Is that like windlass, like wind LASS?
Yeah, so it's a piece of a tourniquet that you use to tighten it. to actually exert the pressure. So in a commercial tourniquet, it'll be a like a polymer or metal rod that you use to twist the fabric. And in an improvised tourniquet, it'll just be some rigid thing that you have laying around. Trauma shears are really, really good for it because they have they're rigid and they have holes that you can loop a second uh, piece of fabric through to secure them in place. Um, but yeah, it's a part of a tourniquet. So in terms of what I think you should keep in like an emergency, we're going to keep people from dying kit. Uh, I think and this is just very broad strokes. Like the first thing that you should buy is a good quality tourniquet. Either a cat tourniquet from North American Rescue, or let me just Google who makes this, so because I don't know off the top of my head. TACMed Solutions makes the SOF tourniquet. So I would buy one from either of them. It's going to be about 35 bucks either way. You can sometimes find them on specials. Don't buy one off Amazon. It sucks that they're pricey, but it just kind of is what it is. The cheap ones on Amazon, the the windlass frequently is a point of failure and it can snap. And then if that happens, you lose all of your tension and then you're just fucked. So no, the ones on Amazon though do make excellent training devices. You don't want to use your actual tourniquet to train with, and you do want to train with it because it's a skill that you need to learn. So buying a couple of like $5 shitty ones on Amazon is a good investment for just training. Yeah, don't buy used either. Um, so, so I would recommend just start there. Just throw that in your pocket. And you are already, just with that in your pocket, you are set up for dealing with probably one of the most common causes of survivable pre-hospital death in America for everyone age, I think it's like 6 to 55 or something like that. So already that covers you just huge right there. You're set up. The next thing I would do would be, if I were going to add to that, is I would get a Ziploc baggie. And now you've got just the Ziploc baggie, you have a way to make an improvised chest seal. And into the Ziploc baggie, you can start adding things. And the first two things that I would add would be Narcan, because that's going to be something that you're very likely to encounter just out and about these days as somebody who is overdosing on opioids, and also a nasopharyngeal airway, which if you go into the playlist, there's videos on how to use those. Basically, they open your airway uh, and help you breathe if you're not able to maintain your own airway. If you can only uh, get one size, usually they sell them in sets from like, they go down to like super small to super big. I think the ones I buy are like 14 to 32 French, but uh, like a 24, a 26, and a 28 will cover like the overwhelming majority of the adult population. And you just throw those in there, and you're right there. You're set for a bunch of people. For a bunch of the two most common, like life-threatening things that you're likely to encounter, which is life-threatening hemorrhage, or unfortunately these days, an opiate overdose.
It is also important to remember that naloxone is the drug name of Narcan. Narcan is the brand name. So in the UK and other places, there are going to be different names for that. So research that wherever you are in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, naloxone is what I should be saying. So yeah, carry naloxone if you have the ability to get that over the counter. And then from there, uh, I would probably add Z-fold gauze, which you can also get from North American Rescue. Basically, it's just a special type of gauze that is packed into a little container about, maybe 2 inches by 1 inch. And it's literally what it says. It's folded into a Z pattern so that you can very easily pull it out of the pack. And that's made for packing wounds. So like in your places where you can't get a tourniquet, but you can still have a life-threatening bleed, like in your shoulders or in your hips, you want to shove the gauze into the hole and like really like use that to fill the artery that's compromised. And those are like that's actually pretty cheap. You can get a bunch of that. You can get like a pack of those for like I think the last time I bought them, I got like 20 of them for like $20. So um, from there, you can add hemostatic gauze if you want. It's the same principle. It's just impregnated with stuff that will aid in coagulation. We already got MPAs. Uh, from there, you can potentially add commercial chest seals. Those are kind of expensive. And it's worth it if you have the money. If you don't, I would get packs of Vaseline gauze, which is what we used on one ambulance service that I rode with. Instead, they make excellent improvised chest seals. The video that I have linked actually shows how to use that specific product, and those are also very cheap on Amazon. And then all that stuff can go. Oh, also trauma shears. Get a set of trauma shears. They also make mini trauma shears. They're about the size of what you have, but they're um, designed to like be very heavy duty and cut through clothing. Um, and then yeah, that's a good point. Gloves. Get a set of gloves. I would actually say get 2 pairs of gloves. And I would go up a size. So like whatever, like say I wear large gloves and my first aid kits, I just put extra large gloves. And the reason is twofold. Number one, if I'm using my first aid kit, I'm probably not in the most uh comfortable state of mind. I'm probably anxious. I'm probably nervous. Even though I've done this professionally for a decade, yeah, I'm still going to be upset. My hands might be sweaty. And I don't know if you've ever tried to put on neoprene gloves, even the ones that are appropriately sized with sweaty hands. It's really fucking hard. So go up a size and it'll make it a lot easier. The other is it might not be you using this stuff to treat somebody else. It might be somebody else using this stuff to treat you. And it's none of the stuff that we've described really requires that fine of motor skill. Like you don't necessarily need to be able to like palpate very effectively and like feel like fine stuff with your fingertips. You just need to not get blood on your hands. So having larger gloves means more people are going to be able to use them. So um yeah,
That's really, really good.
I'd throw that in there. Another good thing to have is a chem light, um, like a chemical, like glow sticks. Um, I usually throw one of those in all my first aid kits because you want to be able to, number one, have a source of illumination that you know is going to work no matter what, and also that you can use to mark a casualty. So uh, just don't use the red ones. A lot of like military and police standard operating procedures are to use red glow sticks to mark casualties. The problem with that is that red light covers up blood. So if you're examining somebody, you won't be able to see clearly, like if there's blood or not. So either get the brightest one that you can, or get a blue one. The blue ones make blood stand out very clearly. But really just go with the brightest glow stick that you can find. And then you can use it if you need to for illumination, or if you need to treat somebody and then like, you know, keep some string with it and like tie it, like throw it on them and attach it to them. And then you can go get help and be like, hey, the glow stick is where the hurt person is. And they're easy to find. And all of that fits really neatly into like about the size of a wallet in a Ziploc baggie. Put your tourniquet outside of it, wrap it up with some hair ties. You can really quickly pull the tourniquet off of it if you need to. And then it takes a few seconds to open up the Ziploc baggie and use all that stuff. And that's mostly what I would recommend. Um, I I think if you're building out a larger kit, you might want to start considering adding stuff for treating minor injury, or not minor, but less life-threatening injuries like avulsions or venous bleeds or like flesh wounds, basically. And you can do that with gauze, ABD pads, roller gauze, like what's in your kit. Israeli dressings or emergency trauma dressings, whichever one you want to go with, uh, are are useful. A lot of times you'll see people add them to like emergent, like individual first aid kits, like I'm describing. I kind of don't like that because they're not a life-saving device. They're designed to um, basically they're designed for soldiers to treat a non-life-threatening but debilitating injury and then get back into the fight. That can be useful, but it's not something most people are going to need. So I think you can and they're also huge, right? Like an EDT is the size of everything else I just described. So in the place of that, you could have a second tourniquet, um, which you might need, depending on the severity of the bleed. So that I kind of went down a rabbit hole there, but that's kind of like my first thoughts on how I would assemble I'm going to carry something in my pocket or my purse or my backpack.
No, I don't think that's a rabbit hole at all. I think we want a very thorough guest, and that's what you've done just there. You've been extremely thorough, and I think that's very, very important, actually. So we've got I think we're gonna have to get you back on the show, Mark, because we've got so many things that we want to ask you and talk about, and you've got like so much knowledge. One question that we think is a really important thing to ask someone like yourself, and to try and instill this in people's minds quite regularly is about Narcan or naloxone. So how do you administer it? Because it's pretty simple and it's pretty easy, and you can save someone's life.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is very easy, and it's very simple. It I have the manufacturer's video in that playlist. But basically, the most commonly available that you'll get is the nasal spray. And if you find somebody who needs to have it administered, um, you sort of lay them out and then you put it in their nose and you just squirt it in there and then put them in the recovery position. Um, that's actually really straightforward and really simple. Um, the video does an excellent job of demonstrating how to use it. The thing that I kind of harp on when it comes to opiate overdose is the public outreach on this has been really, really good about teaching people to use naloxone and all of that. But where I have seen, and this is something I noticed in teaching, a sort of problem is communicating to people when they should be using naloxone. And so what I would actually like to ask the chat and not the nurse medic person in there, because I know uh, but what what is the clinical indication? Like, what is the thing that you will see in somebody that should make you say, okay, now we're going to give them naloxone? Not asking like, how do we know if somebody has taken an opiate, or how do we know that somebody might not be like 100%, but like, what is it that we're going to see? And it's a single thing, it's a single symptom that is, okay, now we have to give this person naloxone.
Okay, so I've minimized the chat because I want to figure out if I remember this from when we were taught it So when you see it in the chat, let me know, just so I'm not telling the chat the answer. And then I'll tell you what I think is the one very important symptom. That's if you see it in the chat. I'll be impressed. They're probably Googling it right now to pretend to be nerds. But as you can see, I'm not. My hands are here on the... I would never do such a thing.
I think what's going on is Mule saw that I got the first aid basics down and I got a gold star from you, Mark. And now he also wants a gold star.
Wait, did you get a gold star?
I just decided that I got a gold star.
Oh. I was gonna say, I do
Mark,
want a gold star.
you're on the record. Did I get a gold star?
Yeah, sure.
See?
Whatever kind of star you want. Yeah.
That's right. So
Cool.
Mule also wants
double,
one.
triple platinum star. You got it.
Whoa!
So okay, we had somebody get it right. So Mule, what do you?
It's shallow to non-existent breathing, right?
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Good. So the reason that I mentioned this is and nobody in your chat said it. And I'm very happy nobody said this. Is a lot of times you'll see people talk about like what they call pinpoint pupils. And that happens, right? Like you get those when you sometimes, a lot of time, but not all the time when you're on an opiate. There are a lot of medications that dilate your pupils. Alcohol can dilate your pupils, cocaine, amphetamines, stuff people take with opiates, Benadryl, right? Just there's a bunch of reasons that your pupils might be dilated and you're still overdosing on a narcotic or an opiate. I'm trying to get away from saying the word narcotic because it implies like illicit badness. Yeah. Sorry, old habit. I'm trying to break myself of it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Respiratory compromise is when you want to treat somebody. And the reason for that is because it is not the opiate itself that is going to kill you. It is the lack of oxygen from not breathing. When I taught EMS, I would always tell my EMTs the primary treatment for an opiate overdose is not naloxone. It is a BVM. It is breathing for that person. And no, that's different for people out there who don't have access to like a BVM. You have a harder time doing that. But the thing about naloxone is, especially in like through your mucous membranes, if you're doing it intranasally, it maybe it doesn't all absorb. Maybe they took something that or they took so much that they need, like I've had people who need like 20 milligrams of Narcan to start breathing again. How long is that going to take you? And you're sitting there not breathing, right? There's additives to opiates now that are not responsive to Narcan, like xylazine is now a common additive or becoming a common additive. And that works off different receptors, but still causes respiratory depression. So ideally, what you want to do if you're giving somebody naloxone, you have made the determination that this person is not breathing effectively. That's why you're giving it to them. And it can take a while for naloxone to work. And especially if you're giving it intranasally, and you might need to give more of it than you have for it to work. And the entire time that you're waiting, that person's still not breathing. And like I've had it happen where like I go to people who are in cardiac arrest. They're like dead when I get there. And it's from an overdose, and the people who were with them did everything right. Like they gave them Narcan, they gave them naloxone, but they just weren't, it just didn't work for whatever reason. Like they didn't have enough, or, they didn't give it fast enough. They didn't catch it in time, whatever. And that person just went and they died. And so what I like to stress, most people don't carry BVMs around with them, right? Like I wouldn't expect anybody to. And now in like a COVID-y world that we're in, I also don't necessarily expect people to go around giving people mouth to mouth or using like um, uh, pocket masks to breathe for people. But there is stuff that you can do to help somebody breathe effectively if they're not breathing. Um, One of those is to use that second device that I suggested you carry with the Narcan, which is an NPA. That physically will open their airway. And a lot of times, the reason people aren't breathing is they're making an effort. They're doing what's called like guppy breathing, where they're like, you can see that they're like trying to suck in air, but they've lost so much muscle tone that like their upper airway is like kind of collapsing on itself, and they just the little bit of effort that they have isn't pulling in the air. So if you can open their airway with a device, they can sometimes start breathing on their own again. The other thing that you can do is manually position their airway with something called a head tilt chin lift. There's another one called a modified jaw thrust, and I have videos in that playlist demonstrating how to do both of those. Um, and so I would just encourage anybody who is going to carry naloxone with them, or even if you're not, to familiarize yourself with the basics of airway management. So, learning how to position somebody's airway, learning how to use an airway adjunct like an NPA if you have one. If you have a bag valve mask, which they're not expensive. I mean, well, relatively like $20 is a lot for some folks. But they're, 20 to $30. And you can get one of those and keep it in like a med kit if you go out with a med kit on you. And then you can breathe for somebody while you're giving them this medicine. And you're doing the primary thing that they need, which is getting them oxygen. And that's what's ultimately going to keep them alive.
Hell yeah. That was super informative, as have most of your answers been. But we have a limited amount of time, and unfortunately, I'm gonna have to ask you to be as brief as possible.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. It's honestly, it's literally not a bad thing. It's just like we're always having like the discussion about like, is 2 hours too much for a guest on Red Planet? But when it's an important topic like this, like actually 2 hours is not enough. But let's get through some audience questions because there are a few, and I think it would be good to get these answers. And I think maybe some of them have been answered already, but we'll just have a look at that as.
And I will try to be as brief as possible.
Yes, just yes or no answers, please. No, I'm joking. So, first question, we have B-Rat saying, and this is with regards to the initial part of the discussion, which was about pepper spray, tear gas, all that stuff. B-Rat says, are any masks, goggles, or other gear effective at preventing or at least lessening the effect of tear gas or other irritants?
Oh yeah, for sure. So on the cheapest end, would be like swimming goggles, right? Like anything with a seal, so like a rubber seal. Scuba goggles that like cover your nose are going to help with that. But basically anything that's going to keep, like if you would put your head underwater with it on and your eyes would be dry, then that's going to keep it out of your eyes. Um, Failing that, just like safety goggles. So like shooting goggles, like if you like do competitive shooting or something, or just like, you know, lab safety goggles. Now that's not going to protect from like aerosolized stuff because there's no seal, but it'll keep you from getting directly sprayed in your face. And then there's full face masks with like ventilators and cartridges that you can get that will help you with tear gas specifically. Those can be kind of pricey, but they're available. Yeah. I would look into 40 millimeter canisters are the standard. Just type tear gas 40 millimeter into Google and that'll get you in the right direction.
Kira, do you want to do the next one?
Sure. The next one is from Alex all over the place. Would something like having ice packs on hand for sprains or liquid bandages for deeper cuts be helpful?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So ice packs are really good for heat emergencies too. If you're like at a long march in like I live where it gets very hot in the summer, and learning how to manage heat emergencies, which are one of the more common things that you'll see in protests in the summer. So those can be really good for that. Google how to manage that. I won't explain for the sake of brevity, but it's a pretty easy thing to do. And then liquid bandage is great for small cuts. I wouldn't use it on anything um, bigger than like a centimeter or two. But for what it's made for, it works really, really well. I keep some around. Super glue can work well in a pinch. I there's a whole like debate about super glue that I'm not going to get into, but like it can work in a pinch.
Cool. Thank you. Next up,
Fuel?
cool is how Scousers say cool.
Okay.
Um, Ray asks, is there anything you can do for someone who has been chemically sedated? And I assume this is not if they've had an opioid.
Um, Anything that you can do for somebody who has been chemically sedated. Um, so I'm going to assume that that is somebody who has overdosed on a different medication and not somebody who is being like forcibly sedated against their will
No,
by like,
no, I think it is. It was in reference to when you said that that happened to someone. I think.
oh,
Yeah.
no. Like, I mean, you just when that's going on, there's going to be a bunch of medics and they're going to be surrounded by police and firefighters and like you're talking a dozen people who are probably all either interested in like it would be an incredibly you're going to go to prison or the hospital if you try to interfere with that. Just to be completely straight up, like I would
So
not
there
attempt to
is a
do that.
way. What you're saying is there is a way.
There is a way. Well, so there is a way for you to attempt. Yes. Um, if they are at the point where they have a needle in their arm and they're being given a sedative, you are not going to stop that process. And all you're going to do is put yourself in serious, serious legal and potentially physical harm. I would not recommend that. The time to, and I'm not saying that is like, hey, don't help your comrades. The time to de-arrest is well before that occurs. Once you've gotten to the point where the drugs have come out, the like 12 has control of that completely. You're not going to fuck with it. Just to be completely straight up. You're not going to mess with that.
I
So,
think that's a pretty realistic and good
yeah.
answer.
Do your de-arresting whatever your local protocol is before it gets to that point would be my advice.
All right. So this next question's from a ghost, and the context of this question is for pepper spray when we were having that conversation. Ghost asks, "What about cold cream? Can that help to emulsify the oils and get them washed off?"
I don't know. I actually don't know what cold cream is. What is cold cream?
That's the end of that. No, it's over.
Yeah, we can talk about it, but we have so many
Um,
questions. So
just
Ghost, no.
water is going to be the best thing.
Water, Ghost.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so the next question is from Sir Demon, who says, "What's the best course of actions if you come across someone that has blacked out? Is there a way to tell what caused it, and are there different methods to help someone that has blacked out?"
So by blacked out, I assume we mean somebody who's unconscious.
I think so.
Yeah, I would so I mean if there's obvious trauma, then right, that would be a good indicator. If you don't know, um use context clues like if it looks like it might be a drug or an alcohol thing, then you know, put that person in the recovery position. There's a video on the playlist to show you how to do that. But basically make sure their airway's protected, that they're not going to choke on their vomit if they vomit. And then make sure that that person is kept safe, right? However you want to main make that happen. And then if there is suspicion of trauma, right, if they're unconscious because they got hit on the head or something like that, then you need to treat that a different way, and you need to make sure that you're maintaining a neutral C-spine, like you're keeping their head from moving, you're not moving them around a lot. There's a video in the playlist about that as well. And yeah, basically just make sure that no further injury occurs, and then get them to a hospital as quickly as possible without moving them, which means call an ambulance.
All right. Q. The next one's from Hieronymus, who says, "Can you explain to folks why it's important to practice street medicine as a pair and as part of a collective, not just by yourself?"
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. You well, just safety. For the pair thing, you always have a buddy, right? Buddy system all day, every day. And yeah, just as a you always want to have a friend, right, with you to watch your back, you watch their back. That's pretty straightforward. As far as a collective, um, well, collectives are nice because people can contribute all the different stuff that they know. Like I obviously know the medicine very well, but at the time I was very new to like protesting and stuff. So like we there's always knowledge share, and the more people involved in something, the better the likelihood that you're going to have everybody there be useful to the cause, and also you're not going to get people who are um, it's a more communal effort, which is ultimately what we're after, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Just Johnny says, in cases where rubber bullets are used and fired into people, what are things to look for in a casualty? I guess this kind of means like, what do you do? How can you tell that it's happened?
Yeah, I mean that's going to look like blunt force trauma. So injuries to like the head, the face, are going to be the probably the most concerning. Injuries to the eyes, teeth can get broken, are things that you want to look for. If they so the way that they're supposed to fire these munitions is at the ground and then they bounce up. Frequently they just shoot them at you. But what you'll see is you could have broken ribs potentially from where they get if they catch you in the rib cage. If they catch you in the abdomen, you could have like very large bruising. If you see like any distension of the abdomen, so it's like hard and rigid to the touch, like it feels like there's something under the skin and not just like a bruise, but like it feels like, oh, there's like a really hard, big thing under there. That's somebody who needs to go to the hospital immediately because they might have internal bleeding.
Gotcha.
Okay, and the last one's from Ray. Ray asks, if someone isn't breathing and you give them Narcan, but it turns out something else was causing them not to breathe, does the Narcan hurt them?
No, no, Narcan is one of the safest drugs that's commercially available. You, yeah, I don't think there's a way to hurt somebody with Narcan. It's one of the safest drugs that there is.
From what I understand, Narcan basically like it just enables your brain to do what it's supposed to do normally, like with regards to breathing function. So there's like something. So opioids block a certain receptor in the brain, and Narcan just like clears it. So
Well, so they both attach to the same receptors. The Narcan attaches more readily to the receptors, so it'll kick the opiate off. But Narcan doesn't depress your breathing, so it stops that from happening. There is technically Narcan itself will not hurt you in any way, but if you are dependent, like if you have a physiological dependence on opiates and somebody gives you Narcan, you're basically going to immediately go into withdrawal. So that's going to suck real fucking hard. Um, so that be aware of that. But like if they like say you came up on somebody who was unconscious, not breathing, and you gave them a bunch of Narcan, and it turns out they had like a head injury, and that's why they were unconscious and not breathing, the Narcan's not going to hurt them. And did we have any other questions? Because there was one that I just saw that I did want to answer.
If you want to answer, go ahead. But we'll take one singular final
Okay.
question.
So it was have we had a good rundown of how important consent is for doing protest medicine? And I did talk about that briefly, but that is a very, very good and important thing to emphasize. Anytime you approach somebody, you just be like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm here for. I'm a medic at this event and I want to help you. Here's what I want to do and here's why I want to do that. Do I have your permission? And then every single thing that you do, um, you know, inform the person of everything you're going to do, why you're going to do it, what the potential consequences of it are or of not doing it are, and then obtain their active, ongoing consent for anything that you do. Not only should you do that just from an ethical standpoint, but also that is how you gain somebody's trust to allow them to treat them further as well. So you absolutely 100% do that.
Great. Thank you very much, Mark. This has been a great episode, and I'm absolutely certain that we'll be asking you back at some point in the future, because it's just one of those episodes where it's like it feels like it could have gone on for another 2 hours at least, but we don't have time. We're people, we have jobs, we have lives, all that kind of stuff, and our wonderful audience only has an attention span of so long that we can demand of them. Mark, plug anything that you want to plug, and also we ask normally what people, what our guests think our audience should do for homework, so that next time they come to the show, they can hand in their homework and get a gold star, a triple gold platinum star, just like Kira. So first of all, what's the homework?
For me?
Yes.
So my homework would be, so either you have a bunch of options. You can either go out and sign up for a Stop the Bleed class. You can go out and sign up for a CPR class. You can go out and if you have a local medic collective, take like a 5 or a 20-hour course from them. And or in addition to or instead of all of those, if you don't have those options, you can watch that whole playlist that I have a link to. That would be, do one of those 4 things.
And the for everyone on the podcast, the link will be in the description of the podcast. I don't know how podcasts work. Do they have descriptions? Yeah, sure. Conrad will do something. It'll be there. I'm just not a podcast guy, even though I'm like one of those like unique guys who's on a podcast, but I just don't listen to them.
You're not like most guys.
I'm not like other guys. I'm always saying this. So yeah, thank you so much, Mark. That's really, really awesome. But yes, plug anything that you want to plug if you've got any socials or anything like that. But if not, don't worry.
Yeah, the only thing I really want to plug is that playlist because that's the most useful thing. I am on Twitter at MedKits101. Twitter's a fucking wasteland, and all I do on there is shit posts. So probably not the best use of your time to follow me, but if you want to, sure. If you watch that entire playlist, and I mean, if you have literally watched the entire thing and you have some questions about it, feel free to shoot me a DM. I'll try to answer them as best I can, but please have watched the videos first, because I don't want to, I don't want to be like, yeah, just go watch the video. That'll answer your question. But I am happy to answer any questions first aid related that are not addressed by that anybody has. So if that's something you want to do, then yeah, hit me up on Twitter.
Great. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for sharing all of your knowledge and information. It's extremely valuable. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Mark.
Bye.
Bye. Well, what a fantastic show. Can't believe it. Another one down. Another one in the
we're still doing this.
We're still doing this.
It's been a journey.
It has.
Lots
It really
of
has.
memories.
So many memories.
Lots of ups, downs, you know.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what my favorite memory is, Kira? It's when it's when I remember to donate. It's when I remember it's when I remember to donate to Red Planet and subscribe on
Wait, you
Patreon.
could do that? You can actually directly have contact with Red Planet and actually be a central part of keeping this show going?
It's true. We are a crowd-funded, supported, cooperative podcast. And,
what an opportunity for our audience to get in on this exciting show.
Conrad is in the chat, in the YouTube chat, saying Mule was doing so well for 2 hours and 55 minutes and now it's just collapsing. This is it. This is my new reinvigorated.
You're doing great, Mule. Don't listen to the haters, aka our producer. Don't listen to them.
Conrad is always hating on me, to be fair. He picks on me the most. But yeah. You could he's telling me that's not true, and he's
in my ear right now saying I actually totally hate Mule. Wow,
yeah, he
really
did. He
harsh.
just said that actually. Yeah.
He said that. So mean.
What were we talking about? Red Planet. It's Red Planet, patreon.com. Speaking of Conrad, do you want to help him survive? Oh, you should give us money so that we can pay him. Wouldn't that be great? Give him money, give our editor money, because we have an editor, we have a Conrad. It's very important. It's very, very good. And you can do that by going to patreon.com/red_planet. There are many, many different tiers of support that you can do for us, and the first one, it's called Sprite Mode. It's £2 a month. It's $2 a month. It's however much it is in your country of residence. Don't ask me to figure out what it is in New Zealand. It literally changes every single time. Tim even admits that. But you can get started with your support for Red Planet by becoming a Sprite. Benefits include the sacred and forbidden knowledge that you are helping the Red Planet team, early access to VODs, and access to the Red Planet Discord. That's really cool. But what's the next level up from that? KiraChats.
The next level is Goblin Mode for $10 a month or £8.50. Everyone loves a goblin. We all get a little Goblin Mode from time to time. Complete your gobology by going Goblin Mode with everything from Sprite Mode, a pack of cool Red Planet stickers for you to stick in legal places and only in places like that, and access to exclusive Red Planet Discord hangouts. So, Sprite Mode gets you into the Discord. Goblin Mode gives you extra perks and also into our Discord hangouts. But, Mule, what if, like, I'm kind of scrappy and I'm a little feral?
Well, well, Kira, listening to you describe the Goblin Mode tier was like getting lost in Goblin Land. And everybody knows that. You know that phrase, don't you? That well-known English phrase. But if you're gonna level up from that, it's Beast Mode, and Beast Mode is £17 a month. It's also $20 a month, and whatever it is in New Zealand, Aotearoa. And wherever you are in the world, listener, from whichever country you're in, you can find out on patreon.com/red_planet. Holy shit, are you actually going to go beast mode? Well, then we can offer you all the stuff from the lower tiers and pin badges. That's right. Pin badges. Wear your excellent new Red Planet pin badge literally everywhere. It's completely cool and good to do so. Kira, what if you're just out of this world? You're fucked when it comes to Red Planet. You just can't handle it. You're lost in Goblin Land in every episode. You're trying so hard to deal with it.
Red Planet. You eat Red Planet. You see Red Planet everywhere. You know, you just you're waiting for the bus, but you see our Mule's face in a bush. You're like, what is that, Mule? If you're that level if you're that level or around there of Red Planet fan, boy, oh boy, do we have a mode for you. It's sicko mode for $100 a month or 85 quid. If you support us this much, we can only really reasonably offer you all of the stuff from the lower tiers, plus a very special thank you message at the end of every stream. So, JBP, Queen Pib, Cassie Tastrophe, and Risk Inverse, thank you to our sick sickos, our ultimate perverts. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
We also have incredible merch from Mercenary Creative. Head over to mercenarycreative.com and get hold of our Queer Existence is Resistance shirt. I'm wearing it literally right now. Look at that. Whoa! There it is. It's on me. And it looks great. You too can look like me. And that's a good thing, I guess. If you want, and you can get that. It costs money. It's
I
on
want
the
to look
internet.
like Mule one day.
You can also get it, I believe, in badge form. Is that right? Tote bag form. That's what I was looking for. There is another piece of merch that you can get, and it's the same design.
It's
and it's
close. The badge, bag. These are close. These are close.
Close words in my brain. I thought bag was badge. So there you go. Thank you. Thanks for buying our stuff.
Well, what if I want to hang out with my friend Mule, who's having a great day and doing great? What if I want to hang out with my great friend Mule? Where can I find him?
Well, it's a good job you asked. This is why we're friends, so that every time you ask, I don't feel upset and annoyed that you don't know, even though I tell you every week. Head over to linktr.ee/DJMUEL. Yeah, I'm gonna start writing my new video soon. It's gonna be about how kink in queer communities is very, very good, but also people are not doing it correctly, and it's bad, and it can hurt people. And I'm gonna be talking to a bunch of people about it, including a sex worker who is anonymous, and also some special faces from YouTube and Twitch that you may recognize. But to find out, you'll have to tune in or go to my Patreon. Go to patreon.com/DJ Mule for some early access behind the scenes stuff for that in particular, including being able to read the script when I finished it, which would be like the rough script before the actual filming of it, and also some pics of me filming the thing, and some pics of the boy who is currently losing his mind ready because he knows it's playtime, and I was actually laughing at him before when Mark was talking about something very, very serious and how to save someone's life. So that's the kind of content you can get on patreon.com/DJ Mule. Also check me out on twitch.tv/DJ Mule or my YouTube channel, DJ Mule, where I stream pretty much every day. It's like my day job. Come and give me money. I need it. Kara, what about you?
Well, you can find me my link tree, linktr.ee/KiraChats. I'm pretty much everywhere as KiraChats. Not on Twitch, because Twitch banned me for promoting terrorism. So I still haven't figured out if I'm able to, like, capable, I guess, of going back to like full-time streaming on YouTube. But I really do appreciate everyone still sending me nice messages. Donations are so appreciated, and they're so like ridiculously kind because I'm not performing, but you're still contributing. And that, like, it, as I can just say, I know Mule agrees with me on this, that as content creators, it can feel a little bit of like dancing monkey, you know? It feels like you show up and you like need to do the thing. People want you to say the thing and act the thing, and then they'll give you the money. But it feels very, it doesn't feel at times like you're actually a human. It feels like you're like a thing to put on a show. And if you don't do that, people throw you into the trash. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of people that do throw people like us into the trash if we're not performing for them. But when it's times like these where I'm not performing, I'm just like still trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing. And people in my community are still so kind to contribute. Like it blows my mind. Like it honestly, I can't, I can't process it in like a good way because it really does throw away a lot of these. I've had a lot of really bad feelings with regards to being like an internet performer, and this helps to heal a lot of those wounds. Not all of them clearly, but like so many of them. And I just want to say I really appreciate everyone who's been so kind to me. So thank you so much. Um Again, if you want to be one of those people, my dono links are in my link tree, I believe. If they're not, I need to check that out and fix that. But thank you everyone. I really appreciate you. So, um, and then you can find our friend Tim. Where can we find Tim?
It's linktree.ee/dread conquest. He's got loads of YouTube videos that you can watch that are really, really cool. He posts on Twitter. He posts on Blue Sky sometimes, I think. I can't remember. You could go check him all out there. Go support Tim. Go support Kira. Support me and Conrad as well by supporting the show. Thank you very much for listening.
See you next week.
Watching. See you next week.